Hello! Merry Christmas!
Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, everything. Whatever you celebrate, Festivus, happy Christmas, happy holidays.
25th of December. Whatever that means to you.
Yes.
Special time of year
Woo!
where everyone celebrates and comes together for usually a Christmas special, but
Yep.
not this year.
No.
Because Chibnall's a fucking twat.
But no, we're here to talk about positive things. And also, we hope you guys, wherever you are, whatever's happening in your life, whatever you celebrate or don't, hope you're having a relaxing time and things are good for you guys.
And thanks for this year, because it has been a wild ride with this channel, and this will be the last video of the year that we upload. Not the last we film, because we're filming this out of order, but this will be the last video of the year, and we've got plans for next year, and that'll be interesting. I'm hoping that we can grow and get bigger and better and just have more fun and more reviews and just
experiment a little bit.
Because this has been one of the highlights of my year, has been this channel.
Same.
And it's been brilliant. And
you guys are awesome for always commenting and always having such in-depth and interesting comments.
yes.
So
thank you guys for subscribing and commenting and liking. And thanks to you and Jake and Tony and all the people that have helped make this possible.
well, it's all your mastermind plan. So
Yeah, but the fact that everyone's been so supportive and the fact that this has actually become a thing is fantastic.
yeah, it's really awesome.
And I hope we get more, and
We hope we grow, and even if we just stick with you guys, we're happy with you guys because you guys are awesome. We really appreciate everything you've done
I
for
would
us.
I would rather us do it on our own terms than have a big fan base, but not like to have clickbait and bad videos. And no, do it our way. Anthology of long form reviews on all of Doctor Who is the goal, and yeah, it's fun. But of course, this video today is our Christmas present to you.
We wanted to make it a special one.
Yes, quite possibly the biggest possible thing that any channel on this website for Doctor Who does. Really.
Yep.
It is, of course, a ranking of all the Doctors.
Ooh.
I've always wanted to have one of these.
Same.
It's just like to actually have the opportunity to do it is so awesome.
It was so difficult.
Yeah, really difficult because the Doctor is just this incredible character with so many different layers and obviously different incarnations. It's an absolutely genius idea, and all the Doctors are special in their own ways, and the fact that everyone's list is different shows that the diversity of the character. And I think that even if your list is the complete opposite of ours, that's still fine because all the Doctors are special.
The thing about this show is it attracts so many different people from all over the globe with different opinions on everything because it is this expansive and wonderful thing that can do almost anything. And it appeals to so many different people. So if your list is literally the opposite of ours, that's great. That just shows the diversity and interest and creativity of this wonderful show that brings us all together.
Yeah. And I think the Doctor is one of the best and most interesting characters in all of fiction, if not the best.
It's up there.
Yeah, Doctor is just incredible, and to this day remains to be interesting in new ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, it's a never-ending cycle of just development and fun and stories and character. And yeah, it's the perfect palette.
Absolutely. Now, for this ranking, we made a few executive decisions. We'll only count Big Finish stories that we've listened to,
Yep.
because otherwise there's a lot of money and a lot of time that we don't have to listen to everything that all these Doctors have done.
And sometime down the line, if we do another one of these in maybe a couple of years' time, or maybe whenever it is, I assume it'll probably... My guess will be when Jake is caught up with New Who, that would be the opportune time.
Yeah.
With all the classic clips as well that he would have seen, he probably would be able to make a good guess at classic Doctors. And I assume we'd probably get him in to watch some classic
At least
series.
one story of each Doctor.
Yeah. I imagine that would be the perfect time to do it next. And I imagine by then we would have listened to a lot more Big Finish.
Yeah. That's
So-
the sort of the goal.
Yeah.
One of many for
But
this
I
channel.
think we've seen enough of each of the main Doctors that we're having on our list to make a judgment.
Now, sorry, excuse me. there is going to be one big omission, which is Jodie Whittaker. Because at the time of this recording, we've only had one series, but not her full tenure. And it is not fair to put her on based on one season. Because if we put Sylvester McCoy on based on his first season...
He'd be the worst Doctor.
Yes. So there's so much that can happen.
If we put Colin Baker on after watching The Twin Dilemma and only The Twin Dilemma, like, a lot of people... Like, that's where the argument for a lot of people about Colin Baker being a bad Doctor comes from. So if you only had that, it's like, how can you rank him in the list on one episode where he's crazy and fucking
psychotic,
insane?
yeah.
Psychotic, not like the Doctor at all.
Exactly. So we're not including Jodie on this list, but we will touch on her a little bit.
And like you said to me earlier today, people will say, well, what about Christopher Eccleston, who only had one series, right? The thing is, his entire character arc was in that series, and it finished, whereas hers is not done. And I feel like, based on Series 11, I feel like it hasn't even started.
No.
It doesn't even feel like it.
No.
We've only just gotten introduced to her Doctor, and I feel like there's more to come. Oh, I hope there's more to come. And also, it's like, spoilers, Jodie would be dead last on both our lists.
Just because they haven't given her enough.
Mm.
She's a very competent and very strong actress, except she hasn't been given enough material to make her rise up to that level.
Yeah. So sadly, we can't. I don't want to do that because that would be unfair.
Absolutely unfair.
Yeah. And I want to wait till the end of her tenure until I put on the list.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, how about we just touch on some of the sort of non-canon Doctors? Well, not
Sounds
necessarily
good.
non-canon, but just they're not really in the...
They're not the Doctor.
Yeah. So, Peter Cushing.
I saw the movies years and years and years ago and watched a couple clips leading up to this. He's like a much gentler version of William Hartnell. Incredibly endearing, but he's very much that pulpy 1960s mad scientist. Very entertaining. I think those movies are incredibly entertaining, even though he's called Doctor Who.
His TARDIS isn't really a TARDIS, is it?
No, it's called TARDIS, not the TARDIS. There's lots of little minor things like that, but in terms of his character, he's wonderfully endearing, and he's very much that warm grandfatherly
More
figure.
colourful version of Hartnell's Doctor.
Literally, yeah.
And
But he's less nuanced, is the thing.
Oh, yeah, and if anyone here has seen Star Wars, you'll know Peter Cushing's amazing.
Oh, yeah, or any of the Hammer horror films where he played Van Helsing in the Dracula films. He played Dr. Frankenstein a few times. He was in The Mummy, I think, in the Hammer horror films. I love Peter Cushing so much.
Like, his bone structure begs for art. Like, his face is so distinct. And I think a lot of the time a Doctor's look can actually impact people's impression because the Doctor is a character that you're constantly having to focus on.
Yeah.
And Peter Cushing definitely has the look for the Doctor.
And I actually quite like his sort of stripped back, less long hair, but the sort of puffier upward hair with the moustache and the little circular glasses. I really like his design. But it just wouldn't be fair to put him on the list because he only had 2 stories and they were just remakes of other stories. And he was just a slightly lighter version of William Hartnell, less complex. Still very entertaining though.
Yeah. But yeah, he definitely deserves credit for what he contributed to the canon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Although it's been explained away that those movies were made by humans based on the events of the Dalek invasion of Earth and whatnot, like stories that were told.
I've been plotting out if I ever get to write for Big Finish. I have an idea for that. Which maybe...
Does it involve Bernard Cribbins?
Yes.
You know, he was in, I think he's in the 10th Doctor Volume 3.
I cannot wait.
It's Tennant, Donna, and Wilfred.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Volume 4 needs to have Martha in it, though. They have
Where
to have
the fuck is Martha? Anyway, Peter Cushing, wonderful, but there's just not enough of them to really...
David Morrissey. The next Doctor.
If we had gotten 3 series of the little 20-minute segment where he fully believes he's the Doctor at the beginning, it's very possible he'd be at the top of my list. Let me put it that way. The only reason I like the next Doctor is because of those opening 20 minutes where David Morrissey is the one, the only, and the best.
Yeah.
Rosita, get to the TARDIS. He's just this handsome adventurer with this gorgeous costume. He's like all the best parts.
It's interesting. It's like, because Peter Cushing is like a more colourful version of the First Doctor, and David Morrissey is like a more sort of old-style, colourful version of the 10th Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has like, it's like they merged the 10th Doctor and the 3rd Doctor.
Yeah.
I
mean, spoilers, that's quite a good combination.
That's fucking great.
Yeah.
He's so good. It's just unfortunate. Like the Jackson Lake stories, I really quite like that.
Yeah.
It's the best part of that. It's just.
Without Jackson Lake, it would be probably my least favourite Davy story.
Oh, it's a schlock.
Yeah.
It's a schlocky mess, and it kind of ruins the excitement a little bit.
Not as much as Closing Time.
No, but also I just don't like the giant steampunk excitement.
Yeah.
But
We'll get to that.
But just talking about the Jackson Lake Doctor,
Awesome.
I wish he actually was the Doctor, because he's so good. So good.
Richard E. Grant, the Schalke Doctor.
Unfortunately, I haven't listened to that, so I can't give it. I've only listened to clips, but he sounds like similar to McGahn, but with a bit more of a spiky edge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's very charming, sort of dandy.
If
but
there's one thing that I love about Scream of the Schalke being an animation, is it inspired the BBC to animate classic episodes. So from there they're like, oh, what if we animate the invasion and release it on DVD? What if we animate like 10th Planet and the Moon Base and fucking hell, like, and then like look where we are now, Macroterra coming out next year. It's just like, what a great idea. What a fantastic idea to replace these, because a lot of people hate production stills and telly snaps.
They just can't watch it.
But like animation, like even if it's not perfect, it's something.
It's some movement that for some people is all they need
Yeah.
to get into it.
Yeah.
But
And Scream of the Schalke was the start of that.
Yeah, and also...
Oh, then we got stuff like fucking, what's it called? Infinite Quest and Dreamland.
Oh, yeah.
Although, to be fair, Dreamland is CGI.
I want them, being the BBC, to put some money aside and slowly save up for the 75th anniversary of Doctor Who. This is something I've wanted for so fucking long. Save up enough time, get someone brilliant, like Russell and Rob Sherman to work together, I don't know, to make a special which is animated with every single incarnation of the Doctor up to that point, so you can get impersonators to do the no longer alive Doctors and get every Doctor you possibly can back, an impersonator for Christopher Eccleston and those who might not be back, but just have something that is on screen that has all of them interacting,
Basically, Prisoners of Time,
but not
Adam Mitchell.
Adam Mitchell. Yes. That's something that I want to see so desperately.
Yeah.
Is an original animation anniversary special with, and then that also means they can have the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Sontarans, and the Jadoon and everything.
Just make it a mess.
I don't care if it's just
All the Masters.
All the Masters.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yep. All the companions.
Oh, yeah.
Even Chameleon and Adam. But you know, they would find a way to parody it and make it funny. Just make it like a 6-part serial of fan wank.
Yep.
Yeah. And then like mix up the tone and stuff, like put the First Doctor in like a New Who story.
Put the First Doctor with the 6th Doctor.
Yeah. And put them in like a New Who story with like the Jadoon or something.
Yeah.
Like put the 10th Doctor in like a 3rd Doctor unit story.
Oh yeah. And put the 2nd Doctor in one of Matt Smith's over the top
Yeah.
Hollywood things and see how he does there.
Yeah. Put Capaldi in anything because he can do anything.
Because he's great.
Yeah.
And what else was there? Oh, Curse of the Fatal Death.
Yes, Curse of the Fatal Death.
I'm going to just quickly look it up so I can remember who was in it.
Obviously Rowan Atkinson. We've got to start with that.
You can talk while
I haven't seen Curse of the Fatal Death, but I don't need to know that Rowan Atkinson is perfect.
The amount of times you've talked about Mr. Bean on this channel is
Rowan Atkinson is quite possibly the funniest man ever invented.
him and John Cleese. neck and neck.
Like, in terms of, like,
Ah,
the way he manages to be funny without saying anything.
here we go. So we have, oh, that's her name. I completely, that's what. Rowan Atkinson, Hugh Grant, Richard E. Grant, Jim Broadbent, and Joanna Lumley. A couple of them are only on screen for a couple of minutes, but are very funny. Like, I believe Richard E. Grant's the first one after Rowan Atkinson regenerates, and he's
Richard E. Grant played the Doctor twice, and neither are canon.
yep. And Jonathan, we should mention Jonathan Pryce playing the Master,
Yeah.
because if he was a canon Master, I would love it.
Does this mean that Stephen Moffat's written for every canon Doctor and a whole bunch of non-canon Doctors as well?
Yeah. Because of the Fatal Death. If you haven't seen it, it's very silly and very immature, but it clearly has a love for the show, and especially the relationship between the Doctor and the Master. And Rowan Atkinson and all the actors they get, some of them are piss takes of Doctor tropes, but Rowan Atkinson plays it completely straight. It's closer to Blackadder than Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
And he's like he's like, I don't, it's hard to, he's probably closest to the 9th Doctor, maybe?
Which is weird, because it came before that.
Yeah. But he's so good. So good. Even though it's a comedy little sketch, Rowan Atkinson is fucking fantastic.
It's crazy how much of the Curse or Fate of Death actually came into Moffat's writing when he came into the show. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
And they're all very entertaining.
I
and
mean-
Joanna Lumley, the first non-official official female Doctor,
Yeah.
she has more personality in one scene than Jodie's been given in the whole
It's
series.
crazy how much that Curse of Fatal Death has changed in retrospect, because back then it was the guy who wrote Press Gang writing a skit for Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. And then...
And now he's written more Doctor Who stories than anyone else ever. Apart from maybe like a Big Finish writer like Nick Briggs, who's done 1,000 stories or something ridiculous.
Yeah, but I think that's...
It's like TV stories.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much all we can say about the non-canon Doctors.
Yeah, I just I know there's a couple of alternate Doctors that I don't really know much about, but I know that Lord Slaa's favorite Doctor is played by a guy called David Warner. He's like an alternate version of the Doctor, but
I know David Warner.
but I'm pretty sure he's only on audio, and he plays basically a very layered old style Doctor. Like, he's reminiscent of.
Oh,
like,
I've never heard... Yes, that's right. I've never heard it, but...
yeah,
yeah.
he's very reminiscent of like the first and second Doctors, but like he's very layered, and obviously his Doctor is written in modern like era writing. So yeah,
If he's anything like Chancellor Gorgon from Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, which is the Klingon he plays in that, where he...
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
David Warner's great.
But I've heard from Lord Slaa. I trust him that he's fantastic. So
You know who I would have loved to have seen play an older, more sophisticated Doctor?
oh,
Christopher Plummer.
I don't know who that is.
You'd know his face. He's been in
Right.
shit tons. He was in The Sound of Music, and he's
Oh, the Sound of Music.
and he's still going today.
Wow.
He was in Star Trek 6 also. He played, oh shit, what's his name? But his last words were, to be or not to be. And then he got blown up in a torpedo. It's amazing. Go watch Star Trek 6. It's
Right.
fucking awesome.
I guess that's all for the outside Doctors, isn't it?
Yep.
Which means we have to get on to our ranking.
Ooh. And also, as per usual with our lists, the snap rule applies.
Yes. So, are we going to do the biggest rock, paper, scissors in the history of time?
Yes.
Paper, scissors, rock. Paper, scissors, rock. Oh, okay.
I'll go second.
You want to go second?
I'll go second.
Oh, dear.
I'll put the pressure on you.
I'm scared now. Well, I printed out a whole list of notes. 9 pages, actually.
Shit.
Yeah, I wrote a lot. For this one. It's going to be a long video. Strap yourselves in. I've got a lot to say. I'm sure you do too. Because this show and these characters are... just, there's so much to say about all of the Doctors. And... just because the Doctor I'm about to talk about is in last place doesn't mean I necessarily dislike him.
Same with me.
I think that every Doctor is great in their own way.
Oh, for sure.
There's definitely some that I prefer more than others, but I think...
That's usually just personal
yeah,
preference.
but I think I wouldn't blame you if this guy was your favourite Doctor.
For sure.
Yeah, in the slightest. Right. Number 13.
Yeah. Oh, we're including the War Doctor, by the way.
Yes, we are.
That's why there's 13.
Yeah, so basically, all the doctors my criteria was mainly 8 categories.
Mhm.
Look, acting, stories, companions, alienness, humor, heroism, and characterization. Of course, all of those are subjective, but I tried to split the variation so that it was less biased and I could define between them more. I think it became much more easier for me to rank them with those categories in mind, because I think all of those categories make a big difference in terms of the Doctor. Like,
It may just put one slightly over the line compared to
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
For personal preference.
And so, because there's 8 categories, and because I ranked them, like, the points you can get, I think, ranges from, like, 0 to 5. The best score you can get is 40, because there's 8 categories with 5 points available. So, yeah. 40 is the maximum amount of points. My number 13 has 21 points.
Mhm.
So, it's just about half,
Mhm.
just over. My number 13 is Peter Davison,
Snap.
the 5th Doctor. Davison portrays the 5th such incarnation who had a vulnerable side and a tendency towards indecisiveness, dressed as a boyish Edwardian cricketer. Reason why he could be the best Doctor? Incredible story arc. One of the best. Caves of Androzani is the greatest regeneration story.
It's my if you haven't seen the video, it's my favorite story ever.
Yeah, and it's in my top 10, and yeah, it's as a regeneration story, it's the best one. It presents the 5th Doctor presents a challenging idea for the character. Like, it's a really, really good offbeat compared to the other Doctors. Like, I think the 5th Doctor's a real necessary, like, sort of evolution of the character.
I wouldn't like the 6th Doctor nearly as much if he came straight after the 4th.
Yeah,
We needed the 5th
yeah.
to bring it back down.
It was absolutely necessary to the character.
To not bring it back down in terms of quality, but bring it back down in terms of stripping it back from the flamboyance down to something a bit simpler, a bit more reserved, a bit quieter, a bit more internal.
And what I like about it is that the Doctors, like, especially the 2 that came right before Davison, were very cool, whereas Davison was very uncool. Like, and the fact that they had the balls to go with that was really impressive. Like, like, he sort of did this thing. Like, I think there's one scene where I think Tegan wants to ask him something, and he's like, gonna break my concentration.
Yeah.
Like, he's been real, you know.
He has moments where the 1st Doctor comes out.
Yeah.
Similar to Matt Smith.
And I think part of that might just be because Davison grew up with William Hartnell's Doctor.
And Patrick Troughton was his favourite.
Oh, everyone who's acted in this show says that their favourite Doctor is Patrick Troughton. Even William Hartnell said that. He's like, there's only one man that can replace me, and that's Patrick Troughton. We'll get to Patrick Troughton later. Peter Davison is fucking awesome in Big Finish. Like, as the grizzly old 5th Doctor.
The 5th Doctor, who's world-weary,
Yeah.
is one of the best and most compelling versions
And
of the
as an
character.
actor, as an old man, Davison is incredible. He's
Also-
developed so much since the 80s. Yeah. So yeah, you say what you're going to say, because I'm about to get onto the other side of that.
He also has a clear love of the show that translates onto screen. Even when he's in a crap episode, you can see there's still this affection in his eyes. He's always trying his hardest, even though the character's not big and flamboyant. He's always there. He's always in the moment. He's always giving it his all, even when he was on completely the back foot. Because you can't say that about his predecessor for all of his run.
No.
Not at all, especially in his last 2 seasons.
Yeah. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah. But Davison always gave it his all and went out on the highest of highs.
Yeah.
And when he came
Or
back...
any actor would kill to have a regeneration story like that.
Yeah. And when he came back in Big Finish, he was even better. Nuanced and just exquisite.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the 5th Doctor, in theory, is like the greatest Doctor. It's just...
He has so many bad stories.
It's just the TV, like the TV 5th Doctor. And I'm about to get onto this. Reasons why he could be the worst Doctor. bland, boring, very understated, very passive. I don't like his companions, really. I mean, some of them aren't too bad, but most of them, like Tegan and Adric and Chameleon, are just some of the worst. Bad episodes, like Warriors of the Deep, Arc Infinity, Time Flight, King's Demons, Terminus. Just some horrendous stuff. And his era in general is quite mediocre. I heard a quote from someone on YouTube, I can't remember who it was, but they said, with J&T's first series, with Bidmead on the writing team, they were going for very experimental stuff. And then when they got to Davison's era, it's almost like they removed all the stuff that was interesting about that season and kept all the stuff that was boring. There are still standout episodes in the Davison era, such as Earthshock, I think is everyone regards as a classic. Well, not everyone, but like...
That's very good.
Yeah, very good. And you get some real experimental stuff like Kinder and Snake Dance.
And of course, you have the 5 Doctors.
Oh yeah, the 5 Doctors. Brilliant.
Even though that's really the 3 Doctors.
Yeah, and I've heard, even though I haven't seen them, I've heard good things about like Mordrin Undead and some of the ones like Frontios seems interesting. I think Resurrection of the Daleks is really awesome. Highest death count of any Doctor Who story. Higher than the Terminator.
Was that Eirich Saywood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eirich Saywood was like he was kind of like the pilot of the Davison era and was pretty much captaining the ship until Bob Holmes came in and wrote one of the greatest stories ever, and just was like, yeah, you did well, Eirich, but
let me take over.
Let Daddy drive the car. In regards to like the categories, I think what Davison is strongest in, the only one that I gave him a 5 in was heroism.
Oh yeah.
He is a great hero.
The most selfless of all the Doctors.
Yeah. And I also gave him high marks for his look.
Yep.
His characterization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it really, because like I gave him a 1 for companions,
Yeah.
1 for alien, 1 for humor. He's a very dry Doctor. He's the Doctor with the least jokes. I wouldn't say he's got like the worst sense of humor, but he just doesn't joke around a lot. And it's sometimes his episodes are quite hard to watch because they don't have any light-hearted elements to them.
No.
They're very hard, mechanical sci-fi, and it can be quite boring at times.
Because that's the thing, is if the mechanics aren't very, very good, his era suffers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think overall the 5th Doctor is last place because he's the Doctor I am the least interested in regards to how he is on TV, apart from his last story.
Yeah.
I don't have any overly negative things to say about the 5th Doctor. It's just he's a bit bland.
Yeah, that's the biggest downfall
Yeah.
of his character, is even though there's some subtext there which makes them really interesting in moments, they're
Yeah.
so few and far between.
And when I'm looking at my DVD collection, and I'm browsing my finger through all the eras, I feel like his one is the one that I am the least drawn to.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I'll pick a Davison story to watch.
The only two Davison stories I'll go to instantly: 5 Doctors, Case of Androzani.
Case of Androzani.
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And the 5 Doctors is a John Pertwee story, let's be
Pretty
honest.
much, yeah. Yeah. Davison's kind of overshadowed by the other Doctors in that one. Yeah. But not a bad Doctor. Great story arc. Just needed to be more interesting on the surface on TV. He just needed more personality, I think. But he was a great addition to the character. As a
Absolutely.
whole.
He was so significant in the
Yeah,
turning point.
In terms of the character as a whole, he is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that mean, because you snapped, does that mean I read out my number 12 next?
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah, because of anything more to say about Davison?
Go check out his Big Finish stuff if you don't.
Spare parts.
Mm.
If you haven't listened to Big Finish, but you loved the Series 10 finale, listen to Spare Parts.
He's so good.
Oh, yes. And, yeah, him and Nissa get way more to do in Big Finish than they ever did on TV. Yeah. But yeah, anything else? No? Want to move on to number 12? Here we go. Number 12 is John Hurt, the War Doctor. I'm going to have to go past to the next page for this one. The War Doctor was created as a result of a conscious decision of the Eighth Doctor to take up arms and become a warrior. In accepting this duty, the War Doctor disowned the title of Doctor, and after the war's end is viewed with disdain by his subsequent incarnations, who reclaim the title that the character is known by. Reasons for why the War Doctor could be the best? John Hurt is one of the greatest actors of all time, and he is great as the War Doctor. Head and shoulders above the rest in that regard. He has amazing on-screen chemistry with everyone he worked with in his one story, whether that be Billy Piper or Matt Smith, David Tennant, even Jenna Coleman. He's great.
Jenna Coleman's best scenes in Day of the Doctor are with John Hurt.
Yeah. He's an absolute badass. Like, he's so cool looking, and I love the fact that they gave him a goatee to sort of separate him from the rest.
I like the implication in Night of the Doctor, when we see him reflected, he's young.
Yeah.
So he's been in the Time War for a long time.
Yep. And that allowed for Big Finish to be like, yep, let's do that. Let's get John Hurt. Fucking John Hurt on Big Finish.
Cannot wait to listen to those stories.
That's... Stephen Moffat getting John Hurt as the Doctor is one of the smartest things he's ever done. And I don't think I would be as forgiving of Name of the Doctor if John Hurt wasn't the surprise. Because Stephen Moffat got away with that, didn't he? Absolutely.
Blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because I was familiar with John Hurt, and I was familiar with his voice.
Yeah.
So as soon as he said, what I did, in the name of whatever it is he says,
Yeah.
insanity, I was like, is that fucking John Hurt?
Yeah.
Is that John Hurt? I
Yeah.
turned to my mate and I was like, that sounds like John Hurt to me.
Mm.
And then Matt Smith, but not in the name of the Doctor. Ba-bum! And
John
he turns
Hurt.
around, introducing John Hurt, as the Doctor.
Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Me and my dad were just like, what?
Yeah. One of the best cliffhangers ever. So good.
Oh, brilliant.
The best addition Moffat ever added on top of one of Russell's ideas.
Yeah.
Because he made the Time War better by adding the War Doctor.
The fact that it was fucking John Hurt as the Doctor, and we didn't know. Like, no one could have seen that twist coming, because basically everyone thinks a certain way. It's like, yep, McGann, Eccleston. No one could have seen that coming. Stephen Moffat broke the canon, but like in an amazing way. And
He's got by the skin of his fucking teeth
yeah,
with that
because
one.
if it wasn't John Hurt, this wouldn't have worked. Only John Hurt could have been the War Doctor. Brilliant. However, reasons for why he could be the worst Doctor. Only one TV appearance. Sometimes he doesn't feel like he fits in. Not necessarily as an actor, but as a character. His Doctor feels very different to the others. But that is kind of the intention.
That's the point. My slight counter-argument, but no, it's agreeing, but sort of moving the argument in a different direction. My issue with it is he wasn't alienated enough.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be the evil one.
Yeah.
But John Hurt is so charismatic.
And so likable.
And so warm, and you understand him.
Yeah.
It's his story.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of classic fans out there that say that he stole the show in Day of the
He
Doctor.
did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
And this is an episode with David Tennant, Matt Smith at his best, and Tom Baker.
And Billy Piper.
Him and Billy Piper was inspired choice. Like, genius.
Brilliant. Yeah, he's more of a... The thing is, he's more of a gimmick than a full character, even if he is really good. It's like his Doctor can't be the best Doctor. It's not... I feel like it's not possible. Like, unless you... Like, you can love John Hurt and have him as your favourite Doctor, but I feel like you can't say he's number one. Because he just doesn't... He doesn't have the tenure.
Granted, we haven't listened to the Big Finish stories.
That's true. But it's like... of course, if John Hurt had gotten a full run as the Doctor, he could have easily been the best. But, like, because of the way it panned out, I feel like it's impossible to say that he's the best.
No. You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But he is brilliant.
Yeah. And in regards to the categories, I gave him a 5 for both look and acting. Because
Of course.
how couldn't you?
Yeah.
It's fucking John Hurt. And I gave him 4s for humour, heroism, and characterization because just it's brilliant. The only ones I gave him low scores in his stories, companions, and Alien because he only has one story. He only has, I guess, one companion in the TV show, and I gave him a 1 for Alien, and that's because he wasn't alien enough.
He was very human.
Very human, and if they had made him. Like, if Dave the Doctor wasn't such a wide mainstream broadcast and Stephen Moffat had the freedom to just make it whatever it could be, like, not just do what will appeal to the masses, but, like, do the best story, you could have made John Hurt's War Doctor way more interesting, way more dark, way more
Manipulative.
Twisted. Yeah.
I was expecting him to be more manipulative.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to see him talk Daleks into committing suicide, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But, as is... Still love watching the War Doctor. He... what was that? Hang on. Oh, shit. Whoa. Yeah, he was previously at the bottom of my list, but then I just think that I would rather watch John Hurt than Peter Davison. It was Peter Davison in the TV show, and it's just got to do with presence. It's no comparison. Davison's great, but John Hurt is a 1 in a million actor.
He's John Hurt.
It's
He
John-
doesn't even have to lift an eyebrow.
No.
when he's-
Yeah, War Doctor's number 12 on my list. What's your number 12?
I'll just confirm, but I'm pretty sure I know what it is.
I'm a bit worried because I'm not 100% sure what it is.
It's a bit of a controversial one.
Oh. Okay, I think I know what this might be.
I don't think he's a bad Doctor. I think he's a very, very good Doctor, and on his best day, he's extraordinary. But, on his worst day, for my wants and desires out of the character of the Doctor, he is not it. Purely in the writing. He does the best he can with what he's given. But that being said, my number 12 is Matt Smith.
One of the most popular Doctors ever. I think he's second on the DWM behind Tom Baker.
Yes, and I understand it. But from a personal perspective, he's a very fine actor. And in Series 5, he's great.
Oh yeah, if he was how he was in Series 5 for his whole run with a bit of development, could be one of the best.
If he just got progressively darker in a cohesive way,
he could have been one of the best.
he's really, really good. I'm not faulting him for that. It's just when they do the sort of goofy side of him, it's just a bit too much for my liking. A bit too silly, a bit too far. And it doesn't... Because the thing is, often he's compared to Troughton, and that ain't fair.
No.
Because he's a different character from Troughton.
Yeah.
He's a man in a childish body, or he's an ancient soul. The best scenes with Matt Smith are the ones where this fiery, bitter old man is just there.
Like A Town Called Mercy, for example.
Town Called Mercy.
And also, there's a scene from The Big Bang when he's getting inside the Pandorica and he's real quiet and he's talking to Amy Pond. It's just it seems like that. And that scene where he's by Amelia Pond as a kid by her bedside in The Big Bang. Yeah.
Oh, and Name of the Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the only doctors who've ever gotten me choked up, and that's not nothing. That scene where Clara comes around the corner and she's talking, the beautiful music is playing, and it pans across, and the Doctor is just there with his head in his hands, and he's crying.
When he realizes it's Trenzalore.
And his voice breaks when she said it was definitely Trenzalore. Like, that is gut-wrenching acting. He is phenomenal. The best moments are when they give Matt Smith tragedy.
Oh, yeah, like Girl Who Waited.
Yeah, but purely because most of his run was predominantly comedy.
Yeah, and
not my style of humor.
Very, very, very over the top.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just it didn't work for me, which is why he's number 12. But I don't think he's a bad Doctor at all. I think he's very, very good. It's just in the moments I don't like. There's just too much of it for me to call him higher, like a better Doctor than some of the others, and put him higher on the list.
Yeah. What's your justification for him being higher than Davison?
Oh, in his good moments, he's much better, and they're much more frequent.
Yeah.
His good moments are much more frequent.
Yeah, definitely. You get more of it.
And his confrontation with John Hurt.
Oh.
Him and John Hurt are on equal footing. Like, John Hurt in The Day of the Doctor steals the show, but at the end of The Name of the Doctor specifically,
Yeah.
when he says, "But not in the name of the Doctor," he says it with such a heartbreak, but
Yeah.
also this twisted
Yeah.
anger and fear.
I feel like when it really counts, Matt Smith comes out pretty well. It's just a lot of the time. It's just, come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love him. I do love him.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not big on his worst moments, for me personally. Anyway, what about your
Number 11.
number 11?
My number 11. Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor. When those series aired, series 5 to 7, when they were airing, I think he was my second favourite Doctor. Around about. He was darting between like 1 and 3. But he's the Doctor over time I've found that my opinion of him has really deteriorated as I've rewatched his stuff. But yeah, to give a bit of a description, Smith's incarnation is a quick-tempered but compassionate man whose youthful appearance is at odds with his more discerning and well-wary temperament. He is often described as an old man trapped in a young man's body. Reasons for being the best Doctor? Young man with old eyes, he does that brilliantly. He's very accessible for new fans, especially kids. I think right off the bat in the 11th hour, if you're a young person getting into the show, he's a great one to start on.
I think for a 6-year-old, it would be easier to watch the 11th hour than Rose.
Yes.
I do think Rose is a slightly better episode, but the 11th hour is so fun, so quick, so effortless, and he's the Doctor. From day one, he's the Doctor.
Yeah, I feel like he's the perfect Doctor for millennials. Very accessible, especially children. He captures that fantasy atmosphere that Moffat was going for with the change in tone, and he does it really well. He's so easy to watch. Like, he's a Doctor that you can get into very quickly.
Yeah.
Even if it's an episode where I don't like him in, I'm always engaged fast. Like, as soon as he's on screen, I'm like, yep, I'm focused. Here we go, Matt Smith.
He delivers exposition pretty well.
Yeah, and even if I don't like a lot of his stuff, he is actually quite a fun Doctor overall.
Yeah, and I absolutely get why he's one of the most beloved.
Oh yeah, I think on the surface, he is fantastic for those fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no...
But the reasons why I could see him as the worst Doctor is, he's just so silly. Really, I find a lot of his humor to be really cringeworthy. It makes episodes painful to sit through. Just the amount of jokes and how frequent they are and how silly and they make him seem like an idiot.
Yeah.
Like
it doesn't seem like a front. It just seems like he's...
It just seems like he's genuinely stupid, and it's quite annoying. Some of the worst, well, for me personally, some of the worst Doctor Who episodes ever are in his era. Curse of the Black Spot, Wedding of River Song, Victory of the Daleks,
Flesh Two-Parter,
Let's Kill Hitler, Night Terrors, Closing Time, Dinosaurs in a Spaceship, Asylum of the Daleks, Power 3. I could go on. It's bad.
I can't wait to see what Big Finish does with him.
Yeah.
Because I think with if we get Rob Sherman writing the 11th Doctor, I know Rob Sherman's not going to come back.
Yeah, but
if we got Rob Sherman doing the 11th Doctor as this nuanced, really bitter old man under the young man's body, it would be fucking incredible.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like a lot through his run on TV, I feel like Moffat took the show in a direction that just doesn't suit my taste in Doctor
Absolutely.
Who. It's very lightweight, very focused on the more superficial
The
elements.
spectacle rather
Yeah.
than the substance.
Yeah, very sizzly. I think Series 6 and Series 7 are two of the worst seasons of Doctor Who. I do think Series 5 is relatively solid, though. I will give that credit.
If you've watched our series ranking video, you know it's one of my favourites. I love Series
Yeah.
5 and I love
Yeah.
him in it.
But, yeah, definitely Series 6 and Series 7 are quite poor, in
They're
my
a big
mind.
step down.
Big step down.
Because they focus more on the goofiness and less on the
Yeah.
nuance. And then sometimes, on that token, when Moffat tries to make him serious, he goes in this weird, unrealistic direction. Like the snowman, for him to be in mourning completely makes sense. But the fact that the Doctor, he felt like the Doctor was playing Ebenezer Scrooge on stage, you know?
Yeah.
It didn't feel genuine. It felt
Yeah.
over the top.
There is a lot of stuff with Matt Smith's Doctor that's very forced.
Yeah.
And it's only because we pay so much close attention to this show that we notice that, because most people that want to just tune into the show won't notice that at all, and they'll just enjoy the fun elements of the character.
Absolutely.
He's
Though, quick side note in Snowman, Victoria and Clara should have been the fucking companion. Jenna Coleman's
he's
so
the
good in that
Doctor
episode.
where, like, in his bad moments, he's the sharpest deviation away.
Yeah.
Like, there'll be an episode, like, where for the most of it, he's fine, but then when we hit a bad spike, it's worse than any other Doctor. It's like, whoa, shit, that's bad. Like, I get sudden, like, triggers of anger sometimes with him. His character, episode to episode,
He's one of the most inconsistent.
yeah, he's one of the most inconsistent Doctors. Just look at Dinosaurs in a Spaceship in A Town Called Mercy. He's almost completely opposite in back-to-back episodes. It's weird. It's really weird. And part of it is because Moffat was busy, but, like, I can't...
And Chibnall wrote Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
Oh, yeah. There's no excuse for it. Like, he was just really written inconsistently, and they didn't know what to do with him sometimes. And, like, I feel like, apart from a few exceptions, like, his character seems to devolve series to series. Like, he starts off being very layered and deep.
Though his costumes get better and better.
Oh, yeah, true.
His purple suit is gorgeous.
Oh, it's great. It's the equivalent of the blue suit.
Yeah.
But, like, his character, series to series, seems to devolve really badly. And, like, in the beginning, Matt Smith's more layered and deep and
nuanced.
There's
a lot more nuance, yeah.
Whereas when we get to, like, Series 7, you get to those individual episodes, he's just running around being dumb, like, dinosaurs on a spaceship!
Yeah.
Like, that's not the Doctor.
And also that fucking bit in Pond Life where he's like, I laid down some sick beats.
Wasn't that written by Chibnall?
Yes.
God.
I don't like what Chibnall thinks of the Doctor.
No. And his era ruined the villains. Daleks and Cybermen got fucking buried.
Again, that's not a fault of Matt Smith, but Matt Smith's era as a whole became less enjoyable for myself and you because of the way they treated things like the Daleks.
And the Cybermen.
And the Ice
And
Warriors.
even the Weeping Angels, which was a Moffat creation, got downgraded in the Matt Smith era.
I know.
Yeah. Like, Time of Angels has flaws, but, like, I think Angels Take Manhattan really, like, makes them a gimmick, and then you get episodes like Time of the Doctor. It's like, oh, look, a Weeping Angel. Boo-hoo. Woo!
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a shame.
In regards to the categories, look, 5.
Yeah.
Matt Smith looks great. And heroism, 5. He's a very heroic Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave his acting a 4, because I think most of the time he plays it pretty well. I just think he needs to tone down some of his elements.
Yeah, for sure.
But he is very solid.
Yeah.
And also Alien 4, because
yeah.
he's a very alien Doctor. In contrast to Tennant, like, I think that was one thing that was really strong about Smith's Doctor, is he managed to capture that alienness about the Doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And his worst element is his humor. It's bad. Like, I don't know which one's worse, like Davison's non-humor or Matt Smith's cringy humor. It's hard to say. But
Two sides of the same coin.
yeah, two sides of the same coin. Matt Smith's, there's too many jokes. Oh, and the sonic screwdriver. Oh, way too much Sonic. I think there was like a statistic that I saw the other day where it was like Matt Smith uses the sonic screwdriver 3.5 0.4 times per episode. Tom Baker uses it 0.04 times per episode. It's crazy. It's unbelievably
One
crazy.
thing I'll give Davison is the Leica screwdriver.
Oh yeah, because they got rid of it in the Visitation. Thanks,
Yep.
Eric Saywood.
Yay! One good thing Eirich Saywood did.
But yeah, Matt Smith's Doctor used to be one of my favorites, and I think
I find him one of the least rewatchable.
yeah, he's one of the least rewatchable, and like, I think he's great to start on, but I think over time, once I saw a palette of all the Doctors, he really went down badly.
Yeah.
Compared to the others, and it's a shame because based on Series 5 and some of the highlights of Series 6 and 7, he could have been a great Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in his own right, he sort of is, but definitely not one of my favorites anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt Smith. It's a controversial opinion, but it's justified, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why he's my number 11. What's your number 11?
John Hurt.
Ah, right, inverse of mine.
Yes. The only reason I eke him just above Matt Smith is because the War Doctor was the thing under the surface of Smith that I wanted to see more of.
Yeah.
Personified.
It's almost like, you know how the Valiard is almost a manifestation of Colin Baker's Doctor's dark side? It's like the War Doctor is the same. He's like the Valiard for Smith's Doctor,
Yeah.
in a way.
And one thing I loved about one of my favourite scenes in Day of the Doctor was just when the three of them are having the argument about how many dead children on Gallifrey.
Yeah.
And the 10th Doctor is still very fiery about it because that was one thing Moffat got really right, was a huge motivator for the 10th Doctor was his guilt. And the War Doctor personified his guilt, whereas the 11th Doctor, the War Doctor personified his dark side.
And I kind of like, in a way, it's
Like that, he was coming back. The War Doctor was returning almost.
I almost like how the 10th and 11th Doctor's faces was masking the War Doctor,
Yeah,
in a way.
Eccleston was a different beast,
Yeah.
but he still had that separation.
Yeah.
But Tennant was the one who was more motivated by guilt
Yeah.
than... Because Eccleston was more motivated by heartbreak. Tennant was motivated by guilt.
Yeah. And Smith as well, in a way.
That did carry over, and that was personified.
Yeah.
And because John Hurt, whenever he's on screen, I could listen to his gravelly voice all day long.
Yeah.
Oliver, the wizard, does not choose the wand.
And I
the
think-
wand chooses the wizard.
And I think
Mr. Potter.
a good reason for picking John Hurt over Matt Smith is that John Hurt was never bad,
No.
like Matt Smith was bad.
I do have issues with the War Doctor, which I will get into when we get to the Day of the Doctor with Jake,
Yeah.
because it'll just give us more time to fully talk about that. But I do have a couple minor issues, but he's just so good that I just put him. I just enjoy him more than Matt Smith.
Yeah.
It's just that's mainly all I can say about why
Yeah.
he's above. But everything we were talking about before about John Hurt is why I love him.
Yeah. I just wish John Hurt got a full series
Same. I wish there was at
against
least.
Derek Jacobi and
I wish we got that. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
Your
your number 10.
Number 10?
Yes.
10. Okay. Number 10.
I think this is when we're going to start varying.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But I've got a feeling, this is the point where it gets a bit complicated.
Yep.
Yep, because up to this point, this is, like, we've discussed a lot about the bottom three Doctors before, whereas some of these Doctors in the middle, we've discussed about all of them, but I feel like there is going to be, there's definitely going to be
There's
some...
going to be differences.
There's going to be differences at this point. But that's great. Because this is the point where the Doctors become really interesting. Like, I don't really dislike any of the Doctors from here on,
No.
to be honest.
No.
Like, Matt Smith is like Matt Smith below is like the only ones that I have real issues with.
Yeah.
Whereas from here on, all the negatives I have are more sort of trivial or nitpicks or whatever. So yeah. My number 10 is Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor. McGann's portrayal of the eighth such incarnation, a passionate, enthusiastic, and eccentric character. He is both unguarded about his own background and candid about the future of those he meets, always surviving on the strength of his excellent improvisational skills rather than preparing elaborate plans. Passionate, direct, sympathetic, and emotionally accessible. These traits are balanced by occasional feelings of self-doubt and wariness of his endless battles against evil. And of course, I didn't write this down, but as we discussed in our Chimes of Midnight review, his character just gets more and more interesting with the audios. And
It's weird, because before they even knew the Time War was a thing, it's like they were heading toward it.
yeah, and yeah, reasons for why McGann could be the best Doctor. Has the most stories of any Doctor in the canon, which it means there is the most content to seek out, whether it be audios or books or the TV movie.
Mm-hmm. Night of the Doctor?
Yeah, Night of the Doctor. McGann has the most. So, big library, and he's pretty much great in all of it.
Yeah, he's never bad.
Yeah.
At least none of the ones I've heard
Yeah.
or heard of.
His Big Finish range is amazing.
Some of the best Doctor Who writers, some of the most
Yeah.
ambitious, some of the most fun, all writing for this Doctor who just got better and better and better
Yeah.
and better.
Surprisingly and ironically, for a Doctor that you don't even really see for 99% of his content, he's a fucking handsome and charming man, isn't he?
Oh, he's more of a romantic lead than David Tennant.
Yeah, and he's aged well as well. Like, he's old now, and he still looks really handsome. He's brilliant.
Isn't he like only 2 years younger than Peter Capaldi?
Something like that, and
Yeah.
he still looks charming as hell.
Yeah.
Like, whew, Paul McGann, he's up there. It's like him and like Steven Taylor, David Tennant, and Captain Jack. Like, those are like the most charming, like, handsome men in Doctor Who, really. Unless I'm forgetting someone.
John Pertwee.
Yeah, but that's in his own way.
No. John Pertwee.
Oh, okay. Well, I believe
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, and if you like a bit of black hat in your romance life, Roger Delgado.
And if you like Colin Baker.
Oh yeah, if you like them beefy. No offense, Colin. I love you.
But he actually was quite a handsome man.
Oh yeah, when he was young, yeah, and even early in his Doctor Who run, and then he ate lots. Night of the Doctor is one of the greatest moments in the show's history. Like, in my inbox on Facebook, when I got the message that Night of the Doctor was on, like Night of the Doctor happened, and I saw Paul McGann's face, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because Series 7 had been so lackluster aside from the reveal that it was John Hurt, and then suddenly, poof, Night of the Doctor drops, and I'm like, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
I watched that clip, that short, I think it was about 40 times in the day it was released.
It was insane.
Because I was just like, what the fuck? He's on screen again!
And it's his regeneration story.
And they canonized Big Finish.
Yeah. Charlie, Lucy, Tamsy, Molly, friends, companions. It's so good. And they brought back the Sisterhood of Khan from Brain and Morbius.
Yes!
That Stephen Moffat, the best at fan wank. Basically a wrap up on what we were saying before about Night of the Doctor. Fucking one of the greatest moments in Doctor Who history.
Yeah.
Something wrong with your voice?
Oh, I've got my throat has been strained.
Okay. How? Is it an injury or something?
No, it's just been talking a lot over the last few days.
Oh, really? It hasn't happened to me.
Well, it's also because there's a lot of stuff been going on at work, and I've been using my
yeah.
voice and shouting across the room
Oh, yeah.
and lots of stuff.
You're developing neck abs now.
Like Kurt Angle.
Oh, God. Don't do that.
No, because I don't want to break my freaking neck.
No. Scherzo and the Chimes of Midnight are my favourite Doctor Who audios, and some of my favourite Doctor Who ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's Rob Sherman, but like, still, Paul McGann was a big part of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked nearly as well with different doctors.
Yeah. Reasons for why he could be the worst Doctor? In the TV movie, his character is quite generic. Even if his performance is great, I think his character is quite generic.
And also, I don't believe this, but a lot of people would say because he doesn't have a TV series.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to. I think because Big Finish has exploded and become so popular within the Doctor Who fandom, there is more people that are saying, "Yeah, Paul McGann's my favorite Doctor." But for people like the general public, it's like, how could they possibly?
No, you can't.
You can't.
It's like John Hurt.
Yeah. I wrote this down, but I don't it's not necessarily true because I wrote down lacks a bit of alienness, but I think it's just his early portrayal. Like his TV movie portrayal and his first few Big Finishes, he's not very alien, but
He develops.
once they really grab his character by the horns and really develop him, he becomes more alien. And
Scherzo is a great example
oh
of
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah, he's quite mishandled in the TV movie, just like the half human thing.
Bullshit.
The extremely straight-faced American Hollywood romance plot he has with Grace Holloway. It's like, it's just so Hollywood. Like,
yeah.
there is no nuance to it. There is no big story arc for it. There's no even, like, compared to other romances in the show that haven't been excellent.
Yeah.
Which we'll get onto.
Absolutely.
It's easily the flattest one. It's so just there.
But his costume's great.
Oh yeah, his costume's brilliant.
And his regeneration is possibly one of my favourites.
Oh, it's fucking awesome.
Both
Stephen Moffat.
Yeah.
How the hell did he write that? Well, I mean, he is great, but still, it's like he could have fucked that up so badly, and he did it perfectly.
What if he was just like, oh my god, tripped and fell?
How did Stephen Moffat fuck up Matt Smith so badly, yet Paul McGann got like a perfect regeneration story by Moffat? Moffat's best regeneration story he ever wrote is Night of the Doctor. It's better than Time of the Doctor, and it's better than Twice Upon a Time.
By far.
Yeah.
Better than Day of the Doctor.
Yeah, technically speaking, it's hard to compare because it's 7 minutes versus an hour, but...
The War Doctor regenerates, and that's how it counts.
Oh, I guess so, technically, yeah. Because Night of the Doctor is, I mean, it's shorter, so there's less space for flaws.
In terms of the regeneration part of both stories, which one's better?
Yeah, Night of the Doctor by far is the best Moffat regeneration story. So, in terms of McGann, in terms of the categories, look, 5. Acting, 5. He's brilliant. It's the same 5s that I gave John Hurt. Like, Paul McGann may not be as famous, but, like, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. Looks great, acts great. Excellent. I gave his stories a 4, and I gave his characterization a 4. Obviously, the TV movie, because it's such a big part of his era, I feel like it lets it down a bit, but his Big Finish stuff is great. Some of it's a little bit generic and a bit hard to get into.
But when you have as much as he does,
Yeah.
and his worst is generic.
Yeah, and the best of his Big Finish is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his characterization of 4, just because, again, TV movie, his initial character isn't that great, but it develops into an amazing character. And his lowest stuff I gave him was humor and companions. Humor, I say that just because it's not that he's not funny, it's just there are other Doctors I think are funnier.
Yeah.
And companions, I gave it 2. Again, I haven't listened to a lot of his Big Finish, so I've only got one great companion in Charlie, and Chang Lee and Grace Holloway, who I'm not.
Whatever.
Whatever.
I mean, Chang Lee for most of that film was closer to the Master's companion than anything.
Pretty much.
What'll that buy you?
Yeah.
Power.
Basically, to sum it up, the TV movie was not a good portrayal of the Doctor, really.
You can just end that sentence with, it was not a good.
No, it wasn't. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't good. And then Big Finish made Paul McGann amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's number 10. Oh, and the reason why he's above Matt Smith, I recently rewatched Series 7, and then I watched Night of the Doctor, and I was like, yep, he's better than Matt Smith.
On screen, in the short little bursts, he's much better.
I'm like, yep.
Because seeing the Big Finish, Paul McGann, on screen for that short snippet, possibly the best Doctor representation.
Yeah.
Had he had a whole run.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of Doctors on this list that could have been the best Doctor had they had this, had they had that. John Hurt, Paul McGann, Davison, if you gave him his gravelly character, but give him that for his whole run. And like Matt Smith in Series 5 for his whole run. There's so many ways that all of these Doctors could have been the best Doctor, and they were let down by certain elements. But yeah, Paul McGann is fucking awesome. I love him. He's a Doctor that's really grown on me, especially this year, getting into Big Finish. Fantastic. What's your number 10?
Someone who I was so excited for when he was announced. And he has one great series, one mixed series, and one bad series. But he's mostly fantastic. And that is the wonderful Peter Capaldi.
Peter Capaldi.
So, the only reason he's number 10 and not in my top 5
is because of Stephen Moffat.
Is because of Stephen Moffat.
Yep.
Because Capaldi at his best is my favourite Doctor.
Yeah, same. I agree.
I just, in his best episodes, I'm like, I can't see any other Doctor doing this.
And you know what I was saying before about they could have been the best Doctor because of this?
Yeah.
Even more so with Capaldi than any of the others we just talked about.
Because he wasn't one who had, he had moments of potential. He was one who reached that potential, but just then it was let down by something around it.
Yeah.
But when he's good, he is firing on all cylinders. Yeah. He is just mesmerizing. And the fact that he has a little bit of an edge, but slowly learns to come to terms and become gentle, but still has that slightly aloof, I'm better than you attitude.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
If you take the 12th Doctor from Heaven Sent and make that his whole run, he's the best Doctor.
Yeah.
Bar none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have much more to say other than when he's extraordinary, he's fucking extraordinary.
Yeah.
And he was just one of the most mesmerizing presences, and I hope we get some Big Finish with him in it.
I want to see him without the Moffat tinge. I want to see him in a more natural environment.
Yeah.
Because Peter Capaldi, his voice
is amazing.
Is awesome. Like, he's like competing with like Tom Baker for best voice Doctor. I want to hear Peter Capaldi in a more focused, more relaxed, non-Moffat environment where he can just really stretch his wings.
Yeah, the only thing that keeps him at number 10 is Dr. Disco and Hellbent.
Yeah.
That's it.
Two of the worst ideas, and they're both by Moffat.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I have heard Capaldi is kind of responsible for like the guitar thing because it's sort of his personality in a way, but the way it was written into the story was so heavy and just so
coming out in the tank,
badly handled,
and it was so incongruous with the end of Series 8.
Yeah, it was just badly handled. There was a way to introduce that into the show, and that the way it was done was not that.
So basically, he's the best Doctor, but he was let down.
Yeah,
is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah,
I love Capaldi.
Yeah,
love him. Your number 9?
Yeah, I think it's my number 9. Yeah, my number 9. My number 9 is Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor. Baker portrays the sixth such incarnation, an arrogant, flamboyant character in brightly coloured mismatched clothes, whose brash, often patronising personality set him apart from all his previous incarnations. The Sixth Doctor has been heavily expanded on in the expanded universe media and has evolved into a much more compassionate and likeable character, arguably the softest and most paternal Doctor of all. Reasons for why I think he could be the best Doctor, the reasons on both this are very short because Colin Baker's assets are so easy to define because he's such a striking Doctor in every way. He has an electric presence and he's a phenomenal actor. He's the best Doctor on Big Finish audio. Like, his voice is so booming that you can't be bored.
He was the one who had something to prove, and boy did he prove it.
Yeah. And despite what the general public and Michael Gray will tell you, he never put in a bad performance.
Never.
With all the writing he was given, he did his job, and he did it to the best of his ability in every episode. He is an ultimate team player. And when Big Finish got their hands on him, and they gave him good material, like the Holy Terror, like Jubilee, like Davros, fucking hell, the Sixth Doctor is great. Colin Baker is an incredible actor.
Just like Capaldi,
Yeah.
he was let
And-
down by...
Yeah, and I was about to say the only reason why he could be the worst Doctor is because of the way he was handled on TV and the media around the show at that time. He was given poor handled character, and just it's such a shame because Colin Baker is incredible.
He is.
He's absolutely awesome. I like as a kid, having only seen portions of New Who, I went into Revelation of the Daleks knowing that everyone hated him, and I loved him. I was like, why do people hate this guy? Like, I get it. He's brash, he's arrogant, but he's amazing. He's Colin Baker. He's so good. And I don't get why people say his era is the worst either, because I think most of his episodes are really fun.
Yeah, there's just bits and pieces, and
Yeah.
the way the
Like,
media
like every Colin Baker story that I've seen, I've enjoyed.
purely...
Yeah.
for me, even as bad ones, I can enjoy... Look,
Twin Dilemma?
Twin Dilemma is on my worst of list.
Yeah.
Quite high, because it's really bad.
Yeah.
But I love every scene with him in it.
Yeah, he's the best part about that. And I'm sure it's the same with Time Lash. I'm sure it's the same with Terror of the Vervoids. Like, all of his bad stuff, I'm sure he's the best part about it.
He's wonderful.
Yeah, Colin Baker is brilliant. In regards to the categories, acting 5, alien 5, humor 5. He is incredibly alien, he is an incredible actor, and he is hilarious.
He's one of the funniest.
And in real life too.
Oh, because I saw a convention which had Nicholas Briggs, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and Paul McGann there.
Yeah.
He was the one who had the crowd in the palm of his hands.
Yeah, he's an J&T cast him because they went to a party and his presence was, he stole the show. Someone else, I think it was someone else's wedding, and he stole the show.
Yeah. And even in Arc of Infinity,
Yeah.
when he was told by the director, you do know this is called Doctor Who, not the Maxwell Show, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, that's what he is as a character actor. He pretends like he is the character in its own world, and that is great.
And it so works for his Doctor.
Yeah, and if every actor was like that and pretending like it was their own world, you would have brilliance. Because that's what you should do as an actor. You should pretend like you are in your own world. He took every role he was given seriously, and he gave it his all, and it's bullshit fucking shame that he's regarded as the worst Doctor. Because he's awesome. His lowest, like the lowest rating I gave on his thing is heroism, just because
In the TV show,
in the TV show he is a massive cunt. Like, he is just... he is so unheroic and just a massive dickhead. I gave his look a 2 because his costume is just ridiculous.
I love it.
I love it.
The
I love
cat
it, like,
pen and-
in like a guilty pleasure way. But like, honestly, it's
He hates
again,
it too.
Again, it's one of J&T's many mistakes, just making the show so 80s.
If he had the black velvet suit that he wanted.
Oh, there's a Photoshop of his thing in the Twin Dilemma where he's sitting like that with the black velvet and the blue ribbon. It looks amazing.
Absolutely.
But like, for example, in Try the Time Lord, they got him to have like perm hair, and it just looks silly. Characterization, I gave it a 2 because it's just so mishandled on TV.
On TV,
It's so mishandled, and it's such a shame. But like stories and companions, I gave him a 4 because I actually really enjoy his stories, and I think Perry is so underrated as a companion.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I didn't give it a 5 is because he had Mel for 2 episodes, and Mel's shit.
Yeah.
But Frobisher
It's awesome.
Frobisher's awesome.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, I'll
yeah.
put that on the
Yeah,
screen.
it's
brilliant. He should have had that. Colin Baker was given a bad hand, but he is brilliant still. Even as is. You can see it. You can see it shining through. Time for your number 9.
My number 9 is another incredibly underrated Doctor. Someone who is often overlooked, especially when he debuted, because it was shit. But by God, as it went on, he became one of the best. Again, he was exquisite as the show went on. It's the one and only Sylvester McCoy.
Oh yeah.
Who started as a clown. And he's, in his first season, he's terrible. He's a bumbling buffoon with no nuance.
Yeah, he's like He's like Charlie Chaplin, but bad.
Yeah. But then, in his last 2 seasons in Big Finish,
As soon as Mel leaves and Ace comes on, brilliant.
it just goes on a string of brilliant stories until the end.
Yeah, and continued into Big Finish.
It's big.
More twisted.
Yeah.
Most evil the Doctor's ever been.
He's malevolent.
He's more evil than the War Doctor ever was.
Oh yeah, he's more of a bastard than the Sixth Doctor was. It's just the Sixth Doctor was arrogant, but the Seventh Doctor is twisted.
Yeah.
He's like this Victorian nightmare, like a Sherlock Holmes villain or something. He's
just
Machiavellian.
I think there's a clip on YouTube of like Sylvester McCoy in a Big Finish story just being just evil. Look that up if you want. It's crazy.
He's and also because he's quite this sort of fluffy little charming guy. When this kind of stuff comes out of him, it is the scariest the Doctor's ever been. He's the most unpredictable, frightening, and wonderful and mesmerizing character.
He does the Patrick Troughton thing of tricking someone into thinking he's weak and then overtaking them with his knowledge. Except the difference is Patrick Troughton did it for the good. McCoy does it for, like, whatever he wants.
He's a mastermind.
Yeah.
He arguably becomes more methodical than the Master.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we'll fight like animals,
And then,
we'll die like
in
animals.
Survival, seeing them face to face. Oh, and it's also that episode is Anthony Ainley's best performance of the Master. He's way more interesting with the Cartmel mastermind and play as opposed to like the more sort of Master he was before. But like with McCoy, he's just he matches McCoy's Doctor. Oh, great!
It's the best Doctor-Master relationship we'd had since Pertwee and Delgado.
Yeah.
And it was in the final fucking story.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's good.
Survival. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about McCoy?
He was lovely when I met him. I have a photo of me and him at a convention in my room.
Isn't his real name like Patrick Kent Smith or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
But he changed it because he wanted to be the real McCoy. Yeah. Excellent. Who's your number 8?
My number 8 is Sylvester McCoy, the Seventh Doctor. We just got talking about him. McCoy portrays the seventh such incarnation, a whimsical, thoughtful character who quickly becomes a more layered, secretive, and manipulative Doctor. The Seventh Doctor has the most profound change in attitude of any of the Doctor's incarnations, beginning as someone bumbling to the extent of putting himself in danger but not at the cost of his overall great intelligence and benevolent intentions, and progressing into a driven, dark game master whose plans to defeat his adversaries, both old and new, would play out across space and time. He generally displayed an affable, curious, knowledgeable, easygoing, excitable, and charming air. However, as he began to choose his battles and keep a tighter grip on his secrets, from his plans to his very identity, he also presented a more serious complement of secretive, wistful, and manipulative sides, with undercurrents of mischief and authority, constantly giving the impression that there was more to him than met the eye. I love the Seventh Doctor. Reasons for why he could be the best Doctor. Plays the Doctor's dark side the best.
No, sorry, go on. I just thought of something.
His alien personality is delivered with balls of steel. Some of the most thought-provoking Doctor Who ever, presented great episodes despite a really tight budget and a limit of stories, and Ace is one of the best companions ever.
He also, other than maybe William Hartnell, best exemplifies the question.
Yeah.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, he brought the Who back in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a believable and sinister way.
Yeah. The Seventh Doctor era is this gem at the end of Classic Who that people tend to forget, but it's so good. Fuck season 24, but like 25 and 26, some of the best Doctor Who, and no one knows it. No one knows it. Remembrance of the Daleks, Greatest Show in the Galaxy, Curse of Fenric, Ghostlight, Survival, some of the best Doctor Who in my opinion, and his Big Finish stuff is awesome too, like Master. Oh, great stuff.
And he's awesome in his little snippet at the beginning of the TV movie.
Oh yeah, so good. Like The subversion that he arrives in the US, like the Doctor, welcome to America, fuck you, and he gets shot. But I love the fact that he is the one that is telling the doctors how to give himself surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It is scary. It's one of
He dies.
It's one of the scariest scenes in Doctor Who history. That scene. And the fact that like the Seventh Doctor, his regeneration is compared to Frankenstein is fucking weird, but I love it. Reasons for why he could be the worst Doctor: clownish acting, especially in his first season. Season 24 is quite possibly the worst season ever. And I find sometimes the thing is like about a lot of Doctors have a very masculine presence, whereas sometimes when you're looking at McCoy, it is hard to take him with seriousness. But then again, that is part of his character because he is a manipulator, not like he is. I think the Seventh Doctor is like the polar opposite of like a John Pertwee, right?
Oh yeah.
Whereas John Pertwee goes in there and does action, the Seventh Doctor stays away from action. I love the Seventh Doctor. He's brilliant. If season 24 wasn't such a travesty, he would probably be even higher on this list.
He would probably be number one.
Yeah.
If.
Just like all the other Doctors we've just talked about, if he could be number one. It's just... That's the thing, is I feel like the ultimate idea of each of these Doctors on this list could take them to be the best one. And it's... The show has, in its mistakes, has taken it down. But this is the thing, like, every Doctor has contributed to the character in their highlights.
Yeah.
And McCoy's no different. He's just...
He's awesome.
Yeah. I mean... Yeah, I think just... I love Colin Baker too, but I think I prefer McCoy slightly only because just the dark clown character he has is just more to my tastes than the bombastic Colin.
The thing is, he's a more layered and interesting character than the Sixth Doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That being said, I'll talk about the Sixth Doctor
later. Yeah, talk about
later.
Sixth Doctor later. Yeah.
But
yeah, McCoy just... Oh, yeah. Dark.
So underrated.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen series 25 and 26,
Yeah.
go and watch them.
Yeah. Skip Silver Nemesis, but...
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're looking for something real disco and camp, check out his other stuff too. Like, Paradise Towers is real crazy and weird and quite bad, but it's enjoyable. And I've heard the same for Dragonfire and... Don't watch Delta and the Banner.
Time in the Running either.
That's too far. But yeah, Seventh Doctor, love him. Wish he got more. Wish we got to see more of that Cartmel master plan. And that's why he's my number 8? Yeah. 8, right? Yeah. That's why he's my number 8. So, who's your number 8?
Paul McGann.
There we go.
For all the reasons we just listed, but I find the fact that he's this... In the moments where he's psychotic, he's a little less controlled than the Seventh, and I find that scarier.
Yeah.
And that's basically the only reason he's slightly above Seventh, because the Seventh Doctor and the Eighth Doctor in Big Finish are exquisite. And the only reason I put Paul slightly above is because he's had just more, and I've listened to more of his stories. But if I listen to more of Sylvester's stories, I'm sure that may change. They're like... I hold... A lot of Doctors I like sort of pair up in my brain. Eccleston Tennant, Smith Capaldi, McCoy and McGann. I really...
Yeah.
Those two are in my brain.
The only difference being, like, visually they're quite different Doctors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Yeah.
But I just prefer McGann by, like, a hair. But they're both exquisite.
Yeah.
And all the reasons we listed before, so I'll let you go on to your number 7.
7. Right. Number 7. Oh, we're getting there, aren't we? We're really getting to this is the nitty-gritty now, like...
The minuscule difference.
Yeah. My number 7 is Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor. Capaldi's portrayal of the Doctor is a spiky, brusque, contemplative, and pragmatic character who conceals his emotions in the course of making tough and sometimes ruthless decisions. As his character develops, he becomes an aging rock star of the universe and channels many different sides of the Doctor's traits. Near the end of this Doctor's incarnation, he becomes more closed off and suspicious, and the final stages in this Doctor's arc show the wear and tear of life as a Time Lord. Reasons for why he could be the best Doctor: Heaven Sent is probably the best performance by any Doctor in any episode. It's up there with, a few others. Like I can't confidently say it's the best, but it's definitely...
All of the Big Finish I've listened to is just below Heaven Sent.
Yeah, Heaven Sent is like the perfect article of the Doctor. It's brilliant. He reflects all sides of the character and can fit into any era of the show.
Yep.
And that's why I want him to do Big Finish, because of that. Like, he could be in any era, from Hartnell to now. Any of them he could fit in. And I think that might be just down to the fact that he's such a great fan. His acting is top class. Even when he's given shit material, he, like Colin Baker, puts his all into pretty much every episode. I think maybe he was a little bit off in Return of Dr. Mysterio, but then again, that episode is a throwaway Christmas special, so... But, like, he does the best with what he's given. I think Capaldi's a brilliant actor. And as we said before, there are moments where he's the greatest Doctor, like Heaven Sent, like the speech in the Zygon inversion, like the speech in the Doctor
Falls. World
The-
Enough in Time.
He, like, Face the Raven is a story about Clara's death. He steals that episode with his, like... Don't get me wrong, I actually do like the beach scene from Doomsday, but that farewell in Face the Raven, that is that scene, but done in a way more interesting way. Like, the psychotic, like, just the fact that he can't handle that Clara's dying. Like, he is in shock, and, like, the fact that he can't even really look at her, he can't give her eye contact, because he is in so much doubt about this. He's like, no, this isn't happening. You're not dying. You're not doing this right now. This can't happen. And, like, the acting from him in that scene, the small details, he steals the show. In pretty much every episode anyway, he steals the show. Reasons for why he could be the worst? Inconsistent, I think, is the biggest problem. He's inconsistent between series. And it's the transitions between them is not good.
Like, you compare, I suppose Last Christmas, but really, Death in Heaven to
Magician's Apprentice.
Magician's Apprentice.
Like a completely different character.
And then you compare Magician's Apprentice to Hellbent.
Different again.
Yeah.
Compare Heaven Sent to Hellbent. Compare...
Face the Raven to Hellbent.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely...
Compare Face the Raven to Sleep No More.
Compare the first half of the Zygon inversion to the second half of the Zygon inversion. Within one episode, he's a completely different Doctor. It's crazy. There are some really cringy, stupid gimmicks, like the Sonic shades and the Doctor Disco, and just... It's minor...
On the flip side of that, there's shit like when he goes blind.
Yeah, which is cool as shit, but like... it is minor.
But in terms of talking about why he is where he is on the list.
Yeah, he's below my up tier. Like, he's below my top tier because of just these mistakes. It's sad, but like his Doctor tanked the show's popularity, and it's really sad. And it's just like, come on, like he is one of the greatest actors to play the Doctor, and just like the fact that the writing didn't serve him as well as it could do. I don't think that like people say it's because he's old that people tuned out.
Yeah,
there was a way to do this where you didn't have to make him gimmicky, but you could have had him be universally
absolutely.
Because fuck it, the first Doctor was an icon in Britain. So, we've had old Doctors before that everyone of every age can love, and
So, this is a slight tangent, and this could be a video in and of itself.
Yep.
But the reason why William Hartnell was an icon was because he was a supporting character. If Capaldi was a supporting character to a fucking awesome companion, he would have been just as popular.
But he wasn't. He was a supporting character to the worst companion.
And even people who like her, like, it's not enough.
Yeah, and also, as we've found with discussing with many different fans, we tend to find that you either love, in Series 8 especially, you either love Capaldi and hate Clara, or you love Clara and hate Capaldi.
That's
and it's sad that his era tanked the show's popularity. It's really sad. There are sometimes, like, in Series 8, like, I love his character in Series 8, but there are sometimes where he is so reserved and colourless that it is very difficult for someone who's looking for, like, upbeat Doctor Who to enjoy him, because he's so grey. Like, Into the Dalek, I think, is a great example of that. He's very grey in that episode.
though it does have one great line.
Oh, yeah.
Where she says, I'm his carer, and he says, she cares so I don't have to.
Yeah, it's so good. I love his attitude.
Yeah.
Clara. Fuck.
Big problem with Smith, and an even bigger problem with Capaldi.
Yeah, because she dominates his era. Yeah. I thought Missy, whilst I liked her at times, I felt like her character, I didn't really care about her character until the Doctor Falls.
No. She was she got better, but it wasn't.
And I would have loved to see Capaldi with, like, an old master, like Charles Dance, for example. Hellbent. Worst episode of Doctor Who. This one's not necessarily something that I consider to be a major problem necessarily, but there are some episodes where it's very apparent that they are positioning the Doctor in a way where he is definitely representing the BBC's social, what do you call it? Like
Inclusivity policy.
Yeah, like, but not just that, like, I think there's a line in Oxygen where he says something like capitalism doesn't treat you like a human being, and it's like, I can understand, like, someone having that opinion. It's just that when you give the Doctor a line like that, it kind of alienates, like, half the fan base. That, you know, if you got
giving the Doctor such a specific political opinion, like, the Doctor's always been anti-authority, and it's assumed that not too fond of capitalism, not too fond of.
It's very subtext before that point, but I feel like
it's always been present. It always has.
Yeah,
but it's never been that definite.
Yeah, to have him actually say that capitalism bad, it's too far.
But then again, Oxygen's fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, and
if you like that, if you are on that side of the political spectrum, it's even better.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. If you are, I'm just saying, like, for those people who are,
because a lot of people who stuck around for Capaldi to begin with were people who were a little bit less away from that sort of political mindset.
Yeah.
And then that sort of thing happened, and they're like, so. Just different things of this era alienated different people.
Yeah, and there's certain episodes like Kill the Moon and that I really don't like for that same reason. And then, like, you know, like, for example, stuff like portraying the Zygons as ISIS. It's very heavy-handed. Like, it's not. It makes for a story that I do enjoy, but it's just so touchy-feely.
It's bad. It's bad choice. It's bad taste.
Yeah, bad taste.
Like,
and things like Death in Heaven.
Clever political allegory doesn't necessarily need direct illusion.
Yeah.
Like, not illusion, illusion. Like,
yeah.
Because, like, doesn't the Zygon flag, like, black and white with the...
Oh, probably.
Unless I'm making that up.
And then there's certain, like, moments, like, for example, where... I think it's like Husbands of River Song. It's like, they have River saying stuff like it's a joke, it's fine, but it's like, they have her saying stuff like, oh, you're actually talking, like, smart. You're a man. You can't do that. And it's like, this is the Doctor we're talking about here. This isn't just some ordinary man. This is the Doctor. Like, I get it. It's a funny joke, but, like, this is the Doctor. And I guess you could make the case it's like because they're married, they're an all married couple. Like, that's fine. But it's just like, why didn't you have him fire back at her?
Also,
you know?
One thing I will give Capaldi, it is probably for us, the most talked about era of the show.
Yeah.
It's the one we've got the most to say.
Yeah, because even if it worked sometimes and fucking didn't sometimes, they went balls to the walls. They went so harsh on everything.
Like, my friend who's very, very kind to the show, She struggled with Capaldi's era because it was mean-spirited.
Yeah, it's so rocky.
Yeah.
It's so rocky.
Yeah.
Just a second. Let me just pick up my papers again. So, sometimes he's overshadowed by his companions, especially Clara. His era has very low energy.
Yeah.
Not compared to Jodie's era now,
So far.
but yeah, his era has a very low energy, especially Series 8. It's got a very dull tone to it, and that can make for a alienating experience for someone who wants to come into colourful Doctor Who. Like, if you compare Capaldi's era with, like, the RTD stuff, it feels like a completely different TV show.
I respected that it went a bit more introspective, but it went too far too soon,
Yeah.
and that became alienating.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Sort of. I loved its attempts.
Yeah.
What it was trying to do.
In regards to the categories, acting 5, alien 5, humour 5, heroism 5. Look 4, because he looks great, except his hoodie from Series 9 is shit.
But Series 8 and Series 10 he looks awesome in.
Yeah. And I love the fact that his hair grows
Yeah.
over his tenure.
Yeah.
How he starts out as a skinhead and he ends as like a mad scientist. Characterization 4, because I think for the most part it was pretty good. It's just in moments in Series 9 it's not.
Yeah.
Um,
Because the thing is, in Series 8, it's consistent.
yeah, and the lowest stuff is actually, I gave 3 points, his stories and companions, because both are mixed.
Yeah.
Half and half. Some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Very
But
bad.
even with all those negatives and downsides, I still love the 12th Doctor, and he's 7th on my list. He's just a notch below the best Doctors.
Well, there you go.
And that's why he's my number 7. Who is your number 7?
My number 7 is another less popular opinion, but I couldn't put him any lower than this. It's Colin Baker. Everything he's in this show. Big Finish, the 5-ish Doctors, the fucking Stranger movies.
Yeah.
The clips I've seen of that, he gives his all.
Yeah. In Arc of Infinity as well.
He's the best thing about Arc of Infinity.
Yeah.
Bar none.
Yeah.
He's so good. And he's so charismatic. And also, it helps that I've met him and he was so lovely. I mean, all the classic Doctors I've met are lovely. The only living classic Doctor I haven't met is Tom Baker.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Live long enough, please.
Well, he comes to New Zealand quite a bit, actually. Just under the radar.
Fair enough, though. He's an old man.
He did telecom commercials.
Oh, yeah, no, he did,
Yeah.
didn't he? Anyway, talking about Colin Baker.
Yeah, but Colin Baker. Presence like no other Doctor. Bombastic like no other Doctor.
He's definitely a product of his time. Even if people didn't like him at the time, he suits that 80s era.
I appreciate the bombast. On TV, nowhere near as nuanced as he would become. And when he's nuanced, he's extraordinary. Again, all the Doctors who were hindered by the show hugely benefited from Big Finish. So Matt Smith, Capaldi, please do Big Finish stories.
And I've just realised so far, even now, all these Doctors we just listed that have things that hindered them, they could have been the best Doctor. Colin's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. He was born. He was a fan of the show. He was born to do it, and
Yeah.
he's extraordinary. It's just even in his worst stories, which there are a few bad ones, really bad ones. He's always entertaining, and that is why he's where he's at.
Oh, and I forgot to mention this. His chemistry with Perry is so good.
He's lovely. Like, he's a horrible bastard, but he's lovely to watch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's something about Colin Baker's genuine likability that shines through this
They
bastard of
they
a
have
character.
this, like, great... It's almost like a brother-sister banter,
Yeah.
where he's really mean to her and she's, like, really, like doesn't like him because of it, but they just love each other.
But there's this unspoken adoration for one another.
And
That's not
even though I haven't seen the episode, that clip in Mind Warp where he's like, "You killed Perry."
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And also the scene is like, oh, do you think there's any intelligent life on this planet aside from me? You mean? And like the little bits of banter like that.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful, and you can tell Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant adored each other.
If you don't think that Colin Baker's a great actor, watch Vengeance on Varos. He is.
You'll
so
forgive me if
good
I
in
don't
that.
join you.
But like that cliffhanger where he's dying, like I always make fun of all the cliffhangers where the Doctor's dying, but like the way he acts that scene and the way his eyes go red, like you almost believe it.
Yeah, and also the scenes like in Mind Warp when he goes again and he's like, they will possess my body. Don't you see? You have to die so that I can live, kind of thing. It's fucked, and he's so scary. He's wonderful. He's so out there, and in Big Finish he's so nuanced, and he's always entertaining for me. He's an era that even a bad episode I can just put in and be entertained because of him.
Yeah.
Love him, love him, love him, love him. Who is your number 6?
Okay, so basically to give a pre-warning.
5, isn't it? You're up to 5, sorry.
No, 6. I'm up to 6.
Oh yes, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, this is the point where it's like every Doctor from here is my favorite Doctor.
Same.
Like 1 to 6.
Yep.
The difference between them is only because I had to make a list.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, these 6 Doctors make the show for me. Like,
Yeah.
These 6 Doctors are the reason why Doctor Who's my favorite show of all time. And I think, unless I'm mistaken, I believe we have the same 6 in the top 6.
I think so. It's just where they rank.
It's just where they rank. So, basically, number 6, I've never had a negative experience with this Doctor. Never had a negative experience with this Doctor. It's just I like other Doctors more, and that's the only reason why he's number 6. It's Jon Pertwee, the 3rd Doctor. Where do I begin? Let's go to the paragraph. By the way, I gave him 36 points out of 40. He's fucking great. Pertwee portrays the 3rd such incarnation, a dapper man of action in stark contrast to his wily but less action-oriented predecessors. In his spare time, he was fond of motoring, handling in all manner of vehicles. If this Doctor had a somewhat patrician and authoritarian air, he was just as quick to criticize authority too, having little patience for self-inflated bureaucrats. Chili, I don't know what the word is. That one? I don't know what that word is. Narrow ministers and knee-jerk militarists, or red tape in general. His courageousness would easily turn to waspish indignation. It is thus no surprise that a common catchphrase of his was, "Now listen to me." Reasons for why Jon Pertwee could be the best Doctor. Everyone loves an action man. He's genuinely sassy and gets the job done. He's straight to the point. He has a classy look. I love his look. The fact that he can wear frilly coats and look cool doing so is a testament to him. He is ultimate cool factor, especially for the time. Like, he is the embodiment of that 70s action man coolness. The 3rd Doctor could have easily been a movie character in itself. Like, you could have just had an action movie with that character as the main thing and not even have him be a Time Lord. He has a consistently fantastic era. Amazing set of companions. Like, I don't dislike any of his companions. Brigadier, Benton, Yates, Liz, Joe, and Sarah Jane Smith. Perfect. Amazing chemistry with everyone he works with, especially Roger Delgado as the Master. Absolutely brilliant. The only, like, when I say reasons for why he could be the worst, I'm not really saying that because there's no way he could be the worst Doctor for me anyway. These
if
are.
anyone puts Jon Pertwee at the bottom of their list.
There will be words, as you like to say. But like these reasons are all very like, it's more questions as opposed to flaws, because I don't actually have any flaws with the 3rd Doctor. He's great. His character strays away heavily from the traditional Doctor, and what I mean by that is, when I picture the Doctor's character in my mind, what comes to mind to me is not really what the 3rd Doctor is. I think Jon Pertwee's Doctor is perfect as the 3rd Doctor. It's just I think other Doctors for me embody the character as a whole more, whereas Jon Pertwee's more perfect as that version of the Doctor. I don't know if this one's really a fault of the era. It's more just how the show's changed since then. But he is very violent and deadly, and often doesn't address it. Like there's a scene in Day of the Daleks where he literally shoots someone just nonchalantly. That's not really like the Doctor we know now would never do that. Then again, you could say the Time War has changed him.
Bang on the money.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
That's always my argument for that.
And also the fact that he was exiled, so he's pretty pissed off. In terms of warmth, his warmth is very different to other Doctors' warmth because he's not like a cuddly Doctor. He's more like on the cool side. And I think there's only really moments where he's warm. I think a perfect example is the end of the Green Death, though, because that scene, that last scene where he says Joe gets married and he leaves is just.
If you think the Doomsday Farewell is sad,
yeah, like
go
this,
watch the Green Death.
Like this one is so subtle and understated, and it develops over the 6 parts. The Green Death is awesome. And that scene where he drives off and Bessie into the sunset is just beautiful.
And the perfection.
It sometimes feels like Jon Pertwee is intentionally playing whatever he wants to play, as opposed to playing what the Doctor, by rule, should be. But that's not a bad thing because Jon Pertwee's awesome. So, yeah. But like, there's those, in Colony in Space where he runs into the room where Joe's there, and we noticed that he tried to kiss her on the forehead. That was very obviously not in the script. Jon Pertwee definitely gets wrapped up in the whole action man thing. And he definitely loves doing it. You can tell he loves being the action
crazy
man.
thing is, his other iconic character in the BBC is Wurzel Gummidge.
It's crazy.
A cartoon scarecrow.
Yeah. But, yeah, he definitely loved playing the action man. He loved being the Doctor. It's very obvious. Again, not a bad thing, but he is a word actor. And sometimes I like a bit more randomness in dialogue, but then again, it suits his character, so it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's just I comparing to other Doctors, it's the only thing.
Specifically one.
Oh yeah. And in terms of his era is very good. It's very high quality, and all of his stories are watchable. Except for, I haven't seen all of them, so that might change. But of what I've seen, it's very watchable and very high quality. The only criticism I'd have is that a lot of them are quite similar. As Terrence Stick said, what was it? It was Alien Invasion, Mad Scientist.
Evil Mastermind.
Yeah. And that's great, but my personal taste, I like experimental Doctor Who, and I will get more onto that in the other Doctors discussions. But, but his era is fucking brilliant anyway. Chris Chibnall, couldn't do that if he tried. Not even close. Look 5, acting 5, stories 5, companions 5.
Heroism
5. Incredibly heroic. Humor and characterization I gave a 4. Only because I find other Doctors funnier, and I find the characterizations of other Doctors suit what I vision as the Doctor more. But it's still 4, still brilliant. The only one that's below 4 is Alien. Because he is alien enough to be the Doctor, but he is not as alien as others, I think.
There is an explanation for that.
Yeah, there is, definitely. I'm not saying
he's stuck on Earth.
Yeah, he is stuck on Earth. But in terms of that category, I think 3 is fair. Just because other Doctors are more alien.
That is fair.
Say, for example, I gave Matt Smith a 4 for Alien. I think Matt Smith is more alien than Jon Pertwee. I don't think Matt Smith's in anywhere as good as Jon Pertwee, but he's more alien. Simply put, he's fucking great. I love Jon Pertwee. Every time I watch him, I enjoy him. I have nothing actually negative to say. I just like other Doctors more. But that being said, he could easily be my number 1. Brilliant. What's your number 6?
My number 6. Tom Baker. Now, he's Tom Baker. He's the Doctor.
Yep, for a lot of people. He's the most iconic Doctor. He's on
without question the most iconic.
There's that scene in The Simpsons with all those characters walking past. The Doctor that comes up, it's Tom Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most in American TV before Doctor Who was big over in America. Whenever anyone referenced Doctor Who, it would be the scarf.
Yeah.
He's the most iconic for a reason.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful, weird, alien hero, but there's no other Doctor like him. He is so his own quirky
And
little
other
thing.
doctors have tried to replicate his success, and no one's done it like him.
No.
He's one of a kind.
The only reason he's lower down on my list is his last couple of seasons. He stayed too long.
Yeah.
And then started to phone it in.
Yeah.
And that is something I can't put over all, because every other Doctor I put on this list always gave it their all.
Yeah, I think in the Hinchcliffe era he's perfect, and then from there on he becomes more caricatured and more caricatured. Still fun, but more caricatured. His character devolves a bit, similar to nowhere near as bad, but it's similar to Matt Smith. Over his tenure, he slightly devolves a bit, and then by the time you get to season 18, he's dead.
Yeah.
He just wants to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. So that's the only reason. Tom Baker is wonderful, and if you watch him and you're not entertained, get your head checked, because
He's great.
Yeah, he's wonderful. I don't really know there's much else I can say about him, because he's...
Everyone's already said everything that needs to be said about Tom Baker. Big eyes.
Go watch Clever Dick Films thing.
Oh yeah.
Where it starts with Tom Baker's story about, I knew you'd be a good doctor because you made my titties tingle story. Anyway, you're number 5.
My number 5. My number 5. This is a doctor that has had the opposite effect to Matt Smith, where this doctor has grown on me more than any other. And this doctor, in my opinion, is the most underrated and underappreciated out of all the doctors. It's William Hartnell, the first Doctor.
Number 5, Snap.
Fuck, I hate it how it's like, you go on any list on YouTube and it's like, worst Doctor, Colin Baker, second worst, William Hartnell.
Because everyone's like, oh, he was a dottery old man.
Yeah.
He was much more than that.
From the beginning, the Doctor, the
original, you might say.
The original, because at the time there was only one.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor was a mysterious figure. He appeared to be a frail old man, and that's how. And if you end it there, that's what people think of him in the general public. But he's so much more than that, and yet was possessed of unexpected reserves of strength and will. Yes.
I mean, it's in the name.
Yeah. He is described as a frail-looking but wiry and tough as an old turkey. He was abrasive, patronizing, and cantankerous towards his human traveling companions. Basically, all the things that I enjoy about the Sixth Doctor, but well written. Yet shared a deep emotional bond with his granddaughter Susan. He also harbored a streak of ruthlessness, being willing to lie, and a grandfatherly figure that... Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. And in one case attempted to kill to achieve his goals.
Yeah.
Over time he evolved into a more familiar grandfatherly figure that children loved. And from his first appearance to his last, you see a true development into the character most people recognize as the Doctor.
Absolutely.
I'm going to preface my reasons by saying the reason why he's one of the best Doctors is because he actually has flaws, and he feels like a real character. Like a real character. There's none of that.
There was a sense of danger to him.
Yeah.
He was not someone the character should feel safe around.
Yeah, he is so unique. No other Doctor is like him. He is refreshing for us to watch because no other Doctor is like him. Reasons for why he could be the best Doctor. He has the deepest and most complex character. He makes the Doctor feel more real than any other, especially in his last story.
Yeah.
He has a unique wizardly charm to him. Every other Doctor is a copy of Patrick Troughton, whereas Hartnell is his own entity.
Yeah.
No one's like Hartnell. Magical era with unpredictable stories with a wide variety and great companions. Ian, Barbara, Vicky, Stephen, some of my favourites.
And even though he was losing it, and he was behind the scenes, bit of a prick, he always gave it his all.
Yeah.
He loved this project. And on his deathbed, he had lost his mind, for lack of a better term. It was gone. The Bill of old was gone. He put on the wig. He put on the costume. And he appeared in the Three Doctors. 6 years after he retired. 6 years of him declining in health. And he still donned it and put it on. He was passionate about this show, and it shows.
Yep.
People who say his era is boring often are people who much prefer episodic modern storytelling.
Yeah.
And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But people should rewatch the stories and focus on him. Don't try necessarily to digest the big picture if you struggle with the longer term storytelling. Just focus on Hartnell and realize how nuanced he is.
Oh, yeah.
He
It is
is,
so under the surface. It's unbelievable.
and retroactively,
Yeah.
things that were suggested are now there, and there's still so much we don't know that who knows?
Who knows?
He's the most enigmatic.
Oh, yeah. Reasons for why he could be the worst doesn't translate with a modern audience, like you
Exactly.
said. Old and doddery, that's not a problem. That's part of his character.
Yeah.
Heartness, illness held him back. Yeah. It's sad, but it's true.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, sometimes he'll disappear and come like a bat out of hell at the end. Like the massacre. The end of the massacre. He's similar to Capaldi in Face the Raven. He steals the show at the end of the massacre.
Also, it's tragic.
Oh, yeah.
But had Hartnell not been ill, the show wouldn't be around today.
No. Right. So sometimes people don't like the it's so like common at this point, but any list where the first Doctor's at the near the bottom, they always say it's because he flubs his lines. Like, for one, they only had 3 takes max per shot, and they filmed it live. And 2, it actually kind of makes sense because this Doctor has anxiety, so he would flub his lines, and that's part of what I was saying before about him feeling like a real person.
And also, his body's old, as he's wearing a bit thin. His whole thing is this Doctor is I like the idea that for however old he was, 500, 600 years old, he'd been holding on and holding on and holding on. His body just became more and more frail, and he's like, no, I don't need to regenerate. I don't ever want to regenerate. No.
There's one thing I did
Yeah.
like about Twice Upon a Time, actually.
Yeah. It's the idea that the first Doctor had been putting it off because he's like, no, I'm happy being me.
Yeah.
I don't even want to, because the first time regeneration, for a Time Lord, that's a big thing. So that's, yeah. And obviously
And
that's,
after that point, he gets real reckless and dies heaps.
yeah. But
But yeah. And often he isn't the focal point of the show. Some people thrive on having the Doctor be the focal point of the show, whereas for me, because there's so much more to the show that I love than just the character, I can enjoy Hartnell being more in the background, and I actually think it makes him way more interesting.
oh yeah, it adds to his enigmatic thing as well. The fact that it starts from the perspective of the companions is very indicative of what the tone of the show would be going forward.
In terms of the categories, I gave him a 5 in everything except for heroism, but the thing is, he's not meant to be a hero anyway, so he's perfect.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, William Hartnell is extraordinary and so underrated.
Yep. So do you want to go on to your 4?
My number 4. Oh, it's so hard to rank at this point because these are all just like I said with John Pertwee and William Hartnell, they could be my number 1. All these Doctors could be my number 1. I absolutely adore this Doctor. My number 4 is Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor. Let's go to the paragraph. The second Doctor has been nicknamed the Cosmic Hobo, as the impish second Doctor appeared to be far more scruffy and childlike than his first incarnation. Mercurial, clever, and always a few steps ahead of his enemies. At times he could be calculating schemer who would not only manipulate people for the greater good, but act like a bumbling fool and have others underestimate his true abilities. Despite the bluster and tendency to panic when events got out of control, the second Doctor always acted heroically and morally in his desire to help the oppressed. Reasons why he could be the best Doctor.
All of them?
Yes, but I'll go specifically. Had to do the hardest work making it possible for the show to reinvent itself. Every other Doctor bases themselves on him. He set the template for every Doctor going forward. Multiple actors who have played the Doctor say he's the best Doctor. Like
every other classic Doctor post him.
Yeah, and Matt Smith said it as well.
And Capaldi.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Christopher Eccleston studied Troughton's tape as well when he was auditioning for the role. I'm sure I've heard Tennant at some point. Credit. I'm sure McGann as well. Like, everyone loves Patrick Troughton.
Yeah.
Everyone.
He was the Doctor's Doctor.
Yeah. There's a reason why it was him that was brought back in the Two Doctors. Because, like, he's just amazing. His era is amazing. His companions are great. Even with many missing episodes, the quality is still outstanding.
The writing is sublime.
Yeah. It is, like, if William Hartnell was the more sort of adventure era, this was, like, when sci-fi came into its own in the show.
And it was great. And so atmospheric. Fury from the Deep and Tomb of the Cybermen are two of the most atmospheric stories in the entire...
Oh, and Web of Fear as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got stuff like Power...
Dominators.
Fuck the Dominators. Like, Power of the Daleks, one of the best portrayals of Daleks ever. Evil of Daleks is a classic too. Moonbase, again, atmospheric. Tomb of the Cybermen, brilliant. Enemy of the World, brilliant. Macroterror, Faceless Ones, underrated, so underrated. Ice Warriors, underrated. And stuff like The Mind Robber and The Invasion. And of course, my favourite Doctor Who story of all time, The War Games. The War Games is fucking brilliant. Troughton as well is a brilliant character actor. And one thing I love about his Doctor is, like, a lot of the other Doctors had to inject some of their own personality into the Doctor to really juice it up and make it feel natural, whereas I don't think the second Doctor is anything like Patrick Troughton is in real life. He's just such a good actor, he can pull it off.
Absolutely. You saw Patrick Troughton in interviews, he was much quieter, much shyer, much more articulate and well-spoken and thoughtful. Like, the second Doctor is thoughtful, but in a very different way. It's a much more hidden thoughtfulness, whereas Patrick Troughton is clearly an insanely intelligent man. Yeah. He was very...
brilliant actor to where you believe everything.
Yeah, and a brilliant... Like, he, like Peter Cushing, was in a bunch of those Hammer horror films, and he's such a good character actor, because he can go from this hideous little cockney, rotten teeth guy to the second Doctor.
Exactly.
Our lives are like nobody else's.
That's the exciting thing. There's nobody in the universe that can do what we're doing.
Jimmy! No!
Exactly, so much range. And he thrives in multi-Doctor specials as well.
He's always the star. Yeah. Even though the Five Doctors is a third Doctor story, Patrick Troughton is the highlight.
3 Doctors and 2 Doctors as well.
Yeah. Really? How does that go? Will you be quiet? I am he and he is me, and we are all together, cuckoo cuckoo. What? It's a song by the Beatles. Oh, really? How's it go? I love the 3 Doctors.
Love how, like, in the entire of when Pertwee knew Joe, like, Pertwee had Joe's heart, and then Patrick Troughton swoops and he's like, no. And Pertwee's visibly pissed off.
Have you seen the B-roll footage for the 5 Doctors when they're on set?
No, but you told me about it.
It's, if you can find it, find the outtake, it's called. It's more like B-roll footage. It's not really a blooper or anything, where they've just had the cameras rolling whilst they're setting up. And It's when they're around the little Tomb of Rassilon monument thing, and it's Richard Herndl, Patrick Troughton, and John Pertwee going back and forth at each other, and it's just like the doctors. And Patrick Troughton pulls out of his jacket a literal bag of jelly babies, actual jelly babies, and starts eating one and offers it to John Pertwee. He says, "No, put them away." And Richard Herndl's like, "Put them away. Come on, be professional." And John Pertwee says, "He's trying to sabotage me by putting gum in my mouth." It's wonderful. And you can see Nicholas Courtney in the background and Elizabeth Sladen waiting patiently while they bicker about. It's so good.
Reasons for being the worst, even though he won't ever be and shouldn't ever be on anyone's list.
No.
Over-exuberant?
No. Disagree.
Yeah, I feel like the only time I ever could possibly get triggered by Troughton is because I get triggered by Matt Smith, and because they're similar, like I connect the two. But the thing is, if I hadn't watched any Matt Smith, that wouldn't bother me about Trout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen Moffat's writing of Matt Smith has damaged the Second Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He's quite a silly Doctor, but I don't think it's in a bad way.
No.
It's just if your taste isn't silly, then you won't like that necessarily.
Not so much breaking the rules as bending them a little.
Yeah. The fact that so much of his era is missing holds him back for some people.
Yeah. It's a crying shame. Yeah.
And if there's only one nitpick I have with him, is that it took him just a few stories to figure it out.
Yeah.
Noticeably in the Highlanders and the Underwater Menace, he's not quite there yet. Highlanders, he's experimenting with a lot of his character acting comedy stuff, and then Underwater Menace, he feels a bit dry. But Moonbase onwards, perfect. He's the Doctor. One of the greatest ever. Possibly even the greatest. Categories? Look 5, acting 5, stories 5, companions 5, characterization 5. Alien 4, humour 4, heroism 4. Brilliantly balanced. Probably, you could argue, he's objectively the best Doctor. Patrick Troughton is extraordinary. I love him. I always have and always will. What is there more to say? He's brilliant.
He's excellent.
Yeah, and he could easily ascend this list. I have no reason not to rank him higher. He just isn't at the moment.
All right, you.
I think so.
Okay.
You're number 4. I've got a sneaking suspicion. I think I know what this one is.
Christopher Eccleston.
No, I got that one wrong. Jesus. Okay, Christopher Eccleston.
Love him. Absolutely love him. If he wasn't good, show wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. And the fact that he knew he was going out in his finale, and the finales are arguably his best performance, always treated the show with respect. Always treated it with reverence, even though he wasn't a fan. He embodied this new edgy version of the Doctor while still maintaining and still being the Doctor. Funny, charismatic, adventurous, heroic, dangerous, scary. And then he was gone. He was perfect, and then he was gone. The only reason he's not higher is because there was only one series.
Yeah.
That's basically all I can say about him. If you want to see more about my opinion, go watch all of our Series 1 reviews, and also specifically the recap and ranking. But there's not much more I can say about Christopher Eccleston. Well, there's a lot more, but to be honest, I don't need to say much more. He's perfect. I just wish there was more of him.
Yeah. Big finish, please. He could end up being number 1 on both our lists if Big Finish treats him right.
Yeah.
Get Russell on Big Finish, please, please, because Russell's writing for Eccleston is fucking awesome, and I'll get to that later. My number 3. Oh, pretty bright. Okay. My number 3 is the wonderful Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor.
Yeah.
He only just slides there though. He's only, he is a hair above Troughton. Baker portrays the 4th such incarnation, a whimsical and sometimes brooding individual, whose enormous personal warmth is at times tempered by his capacity for righteous anger. To an extent, the 4th Doctor is one of the most unpredictable in terms of his emotional depth, slightly more distant and alien than his previous incarnations. Despite his obvious moments of whimsical charm and offbeat humour, accompanied by his manic grin. The Fourth Doctor is more aloof and somber than his previous incarnations. He can become intensely brooding, serious, and even callous. He also has a liking for jelly babies. Reasons for being the best Doctor. I don't even need to read these because you all know, but I'll do it anyway. The most iconic, the most funny. I've no other Doctor has had me balls and tears of laughter more than Tom Baker. There was this week where me and my mate binge watched the Hinchcliffe era, and I think we watched Horror Fang Rock as well, and it was just laughter after laughter after laughter. It was so funny, almost pissing myself laughing with that stuff. It's brilliant. He has the most iconic costume, the scarf, the bohemian coat, the hat, big curly hair, the jelly babies. Yeah, it was a brilliant mess of a costume, but it worked. The Hinchcliffe era is one of my favorite eras of the show. The sci-fi experimentation they went into, and just some of the dark tones and the stories in that era are just some of the best. I mean, when you've got Robert Holmes script editing it, it's just going to be great anyway. Even the weakest stories in that era I can enjoy and watch. His run was 7 years long, so he has a long tenure with a lot of variety in it. Not all of it's great, but a lot of it is. Easily the most alien Doctor. Easily.
Oh,
By far. He's just... In a real life, Tom Baker is an alien. They cast an alien as the Doctor. Some of the best episodes of Doctor history are in his era. He has great chemistry with several companions, and different chemistry as well. Sarah Jane, Harry, Leela, even Brigadier. The only ones he doesn't really have chemistry with is the Davison ones, and he left after that. So, and he's just so bloody memorable. No one forgets Tom Baker. He leaves a mark on people when people watch him. He's so good. Reasons for being the worst Doctor? Sometimes he's a bit over the top. Sometimes his doctor can be a bit arrogant.
He also went too long.
He can sometimes come off he definitely sometimes, especially in the Williams era, he feels almost like that drunk person you'd meet at a party and have a great time with, as opposed to a Time Lord. And he is disappointing to watch in season 18, especially considering everything before that was so fun. To see him just dragged down is just quite sad. But in terms of the categories, look, 5 of course, stories 5, companions 5, alien 5, humour 5. Acting 4, just because he phoned it in sometimes, but when he was on fire, he was absolutely on fire. Heroism 4, because most of the time he was very heroic, but I think sometimes a bit detached. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just part of his character. And characterization 4, because it changed, and the thing is, for the first 3 seasons, definitely, he had a great character arc. I just think over time, it became just Tom Baker being Tom Baker and not really a defined character. But that being said, he's my favourite classic Doctor because I just love watching him, and I don't think that's needs explaining because everyone knows it.
You all know Tom Baker.
It's Tom Baker. It's Tom Baker. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
What is your number 3?
This came with a heavy heart to put him this low on the list. He used to be my number 1 for a long time, for so many different reasons. For him being very sciencey, to him sort of being the action man, to his gorgeous suits. There was so many things that I love about him, and I can watch any of his stories and be entertained, even if they're not as good as some of his really high heights. I love him, I love him, I love him, I love him, I love him. But he's just not... I just cannot put him above the two above him. Because he has just moved down whilst we've been talking about this, as I've been thinking about this, he has shifted down into number 3 from where he was before. David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. My thinking? Series 2. I was thinking, how can I justify putting him down one spot? And then I realized the other two, you can do the math, you can probably figure out who they are. The other two, even though one of them took a little while to get into it, as you mentioned, once they had it, they had it. But for Tennant, it didn't. It took a whole season before I fell in love with him. Yeah. And this is not to say this is the only reason, because I adore him. Yeah. David Tennant is my favorite actor in the world. Yeah. When I'm performing on stage, when I'm doing a dramatic piece, I am channeling David Tennant. He is one of my heroes. He was my childhood hero. I love him so much, but I just couldn't put him above the other two. I cannot wait to fully dissect his whole era with Jake, so I can fully go into everything that I love about his character and why he's underrated in some fat parts of the community and why other parts of him are overrated in different parts of the community. But he's spectacular. He's always entertaining, compassionate, angry, fun, fiery, fun, everything. Everything. He's wonderful. You're number 2.
My number 2. Oh yeah, most people know already. If you watched our videos, you already know who this is. Christopher Eccleston, the 9th Doctor. Eccleston is a tough-as-nails Doctor, damaged by war and guilt, but still possessing the same spark of fun and adventure as his previous selves. He brought warmth, wit, and promise, and a formidable presence. His stark contrast to the classic Doctors comes from the character's development coming off the back of a war that destroyed his entire race. His stripped-back look and personality shows how he has thrown away a lot of the camp flamboyance of his predecessors, and attempts to blend in as a more human-like persona. But this is backlashed by his often difficult personality. However, over time, this Doctor starts to come back to life, and there is a true sense of healing within by the end of his tenure. Reasons for why he's could be the best Doctor? Balanced. He is so well balanced as a character. He has so many different sides to his Doctor, but they're all balanced perfectly. Series 1 is my favourite series of Doctor Who. I absolutely love it. Christopher Eccleston balances the dark sides and the light sides of his character perfectly. He's very funny, as well as being very serious when he needs to be. He put a new edge on the character. He completely changed the Doctor and made it something new. And that's down to the writing and the acting. As we saw in an episode like Dalek, it's one of the best ever performances by any Doctor. And it's not just him delivering what's given to him. There is actually proof that he changed Rob Sherman's script and made it even better, and that's the kind of professional he is. He sees what the story needs and changes it and does enough.
Even though he didn't know the show, he had a reverence for it whilst being in it.
Yeah. Just the work ethic he put into that series is unbelievable. He never puts in a bad performance and is always great in every episode.
Absolutely.
His Doctor is relatable, but also alien. He has great chemistry with his companions. Fuck Adam Mitchell, though.
Doesn't count. He's an anti-companion.
Yeah, anti. But Rose, Jackie, Mickey, Captain Jack, perfect. Genuinely Pete as well. Carrie Jones. Everyone. Genuine. And Jabe. Even Jabe.
Bad Wolf Putting of the Waste. Linda.
Genuinely touching and short but sweet. Reasons for why someone might think he's the worst.
Fancy guy.
Oh, that's not really his doctor, though, is it?
But that's my point.
Yeah.
The-
Some people think this. Okay, this is definitely. We addressed this in the series 1 recap. A lot of his comedy is definitely slapstick, and it's more like daddish humor. And some people don't like that, but I love it.
He does it with a very tongue-in-cheek nature.
Yeah. He has the most unconventional costume for the Doctor. It's so undoctorish, but that's the point of the character.
Yeah, stripped back.
Some have argued that his man of the people character is too grounded and not eccentric enough. But then again,
He's
that
also very eccentric.
yeah, and that is his character anyway. Like that's the point of his Doctor.
Like when he meets the tree people and he gives them air from his lungs.
Yeah.
He has got lots of quirky little moments. It just doesn't dominate.
It's shrouded by this black jacket
Yeah.
costume.
It just doesn't dominate his. He's a broken man, but there's moments of like, I would argue, he's probably the closest to the Fourth Doctor. Because the moments where he's quirky are the most alien.
Yeah. Easily. Northerners are usually associated as either criminals or retards on TV. Nah, he's all good. Him being Northern makes his Doctor even more special.
Lots of fans have a North. One of the most iconic lines of Doctor Who.
And for some people, his activity outside the show seems to be rocky. And some people don't like his Doctor because of that, but I think that's unfair.
And also, we don't know. I mean, he's elaborated on it a bit more, but we're not going to get into it now. It's not really fair because we don't have the full story. But from what we understand, he was not fairly treated. And for him to try and separate himself from the show is completely understandable. But despite that, he knew he was on his way out, and yet he never phoned it in. He respected the material. He respected Russell. He respected the fans.
Look, 5. Acting 5. Stories 5. Heroism 5. Characterization 5. Companions 4 because of Adam. Alien 4 because I think there are a couple of Doctors that are slightly more alien, like Tom Baker, for example. And Sylvester and Colin. And Capaldi. And Humour 4 because he is really funny, but again, there are other Doctors that are slightly funnier. But he's perfect.
Yep.
The only problem is one series. But then again, that is my favourite series of Doctor Who, so what am I complaining about? Big Finish, bring him back. Christopher Eccleston is millimetres from being my favourite Doctor. And, yeah. Who's your number 1?
My number 2.
Oh, sorry, no, you're number 2. Sorry, I forgot.
My number 2 is the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton.
Yes, JB.
The Doctor's Doctor. I don't think there's a better argument than that. He is the Doctor's Doctor for very good reason. Charming, warm, nuanced, alien, funny, adventurous, clever. He's just everything the Doctor should be, perfected. Utterly, utterly perfected. And such a good run of stories. And like, because Caves of Androzani is my favourite story of Doctor Who. War Games is second. But Patrick Troughton is way above Peter Davison because Peter Davison had a couple good stories and one perfect one. Patrick Troughton had about 4 perfect ones and one that was just the most perfect of perfect ones.
Even the ones that aren't perfect are amazing.
And he always, even the Dominators, you dare defy a Dominator?
It just like when you take away like the watching it as a TV show and just watch it as a story, they're just having a bad holiday.
Yeah. And also, yeah, but also, on your ranking, I want to bring up the companions thing, because if I could rank him with the companions, he'd be a 6 out of 10. I mean, no, 6 out of 5, rather. Yeah. 11 out of 10, 6 out of 5. Because him, Jamie and Zoe.
Even Victoria, Ben and Polly.
All of them.
And Brigadier.
And the Brigadier. Perfect TARDIS teams. So entertaining. And he is the leader, but not the, for lack of a better term, the dominant one. He's not dominating the screen. Exactly. He's the heart of the show without telling everyone, look at me.
Yeah. If Matt Smith's your favorite Doctor and you've never watched Classic Who, watch Patrick Troughton. In my opinion, Patrick Troughton is everything great about Matt Smith, but everything's great. Like, everything's better, everything's great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's like, yeah, everything Matt Smith does great, Troughton does perfect.
Yeah.
And everything that Matt Smith does not as good, Troughton still does very well.
Yeah.
He's just in a complete league of his own. Utterly perfect. Utterly perfect. And as we said, always the star of the multi-Doctor specials. I'm just sad he didn't live long enough to properly be a part of Big Finish. But he is wonderful. Wonderful. Absolutely adore him. Who is your number one? I wonder.
Well, there's only one left, so...
Jodie.
No. In 2006, when I was a little boy, would have been about 9 years old, I was just finishing up my dinner. I sat on my dad's lap, looked up at the screen, and saw that funny man with the glasses and the spiky hair defeat a bunch of walking men with a phone and some numbers. And I thought, what a funny mathematician this guy is. The 10th Doctor, David Tennant, he's my favourite TV character ever. I love him. I love the 10th Doctor. Let me get into the paragraphs. I got a lot to say about this one. This is easily going to be probably the longest out of all of them, because he's my favourite, so I have to. Tennant's portrayal of the Doctor is an outwardly charismatic and charming adventurer whose likeable and easygoing attitude can be quickly turned into righteous fury when provoked. The complex humanity that was introduced in the 9th Doctor is further explored and elevated in the 10th. His portrayal has deep emotional weight, and throughout his incarnation you get more sides to the character than ever before. The post-time war guilt hanging over the character, along with the dramatic tragedies that occur within this Doctor's incarnation, take this Doctor to breaking point on multiple occasions. His modern suits, spiky hair, and Converse shoes show a 21st century version of an outwardly charismatic figure that the Doctor often portrays. The deviations in the 10th Doctor's character create sparks and tension, leading to wild emotional roller coasters for the Doctor, and presents arguably the most memorable incarnation of the modern era. Reasons why I think he's the best Doctor: charming, charismatic, funny, intense, unpredictable, well-dressed, well-groomed. He's like a hero. He's an amazing actor. Some of the best episodes ever are in his era. He has great chemistry with all his companions, in my opinion, anyway. I find him relatable. He takes the character into deep emotional places. The show was at the peak of its popularity with him as the Doctor. His controversial character within the circles of Doctor Who fans makes me like him more. All the things that people don't like about the 10th Doctor, I like about the character. They make it an interesting wave of all these different events.
The perfect evolution of the 9th.
Where was I? He's a lovely guy in real life. Incredible acting range, develops over time, handles the Time War stuff brilliantly, e.g. Gridlock. Russell T Davies' writing and Tennant's acting go hand in hand. For me, he makes romance work in a sci-fi show. I hate soap opera, but I love it in Doctor Who, and he's part of the reason why. He's subtle when needed, he's over the top when needed, takes a lot of what made Tom Baker great and makes it his own and puts a modern twist on it. Reasons why people say he's the worst Doctor: arrogant, selfish, narcissistic, bipolar, too human, lacks alien eccentricity, too cool for school, crying isn't everyone's cup of tea, controversial characterization, controversial regeneration story, appeals more to a mainstream audience than a hardcore Who fan. His era is defined by ideas like love, prophecy, faith, which aren't common in sci-fi. He's depicted as Space Jesus. His silly sense of humor isn't for everyone. Lots of shouting and teeth. He has a rushed character in Series 2. Because everyone talks about him, no one will ever say he's underrated. Fangirls make it hard for hardcore Whovians to defend their love for Tennant. He's also the weakest on Big Finish, sadly. I give Tennant a 5 in everything except for Alien, because he is one of the more human doctors.
Literally in one episode story.
The thing is, as I've said, everything that makes the 10th Doctor controversial with hardcore fans is what I like about his Doctor. I love him. Everything. I rewatch his era all the time, and I never dislike him.
It's the one that I'll always put on when I'm watching Netflix.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's captivating. It's this wonderful journey of a character, and I can't help it. He's my favorite Doctor. And I've just, like, it would take a miracle for any new Doctor to top him, because he's my childhood. My hero.
You'd need to resurrect Bob Holmes under the show running of Russell T Davies.
And have Robert Sherman writing something in that series.
Or have it be 2 5-part serials. Oh no! Russell writes the first episode, Russell writes the last episode, Rob Sherman writes the first a 3-part serial, then Bob Holmes writes another 3-part serial, and then Moffat writes the last. Russell.
You would have to have one of the greatest actors of all time play the Doctor, and great companions, great villains, just everything. And you'd have to have an amazing story arc as well.
And make it feel important.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of those complaints I can boil down into the characterization justification of the Time War. The character needed to grow, and he grew.
And as you said in your defending End of Time Against Hellbent video, there's a lot of stuff in that episode and with the 10th Doctor's character as a whole that you don't like, but it makes sense.
Yep. Right. Is that...
I will get more onto the 10th Doctor in other videos.
Yes. My number 1. As a shock to no one, because most of the Advent calendar videos I've mentioned that this person is my favorite. My favorite Doctor is David Bradley in Twice Upon a Time. No. Of course it's John Pertwee. This one is one I struggle to justify beyond... He just entertains me. He always puts a smile on my face. I love his era. I love the grounded science fiction-y nature of his era. The fact that they took it back to basics in a different way, and he's so different from his predecessors, and he is the most different Doctor to any of the others. Yeah. And I love him. And his fashion sense is great, and the Venusianaki though. And the fact he's got a brilliant mind, and he
looks like his own character.
Yeah. Which could be a complaint for some, which I completely understand. But because I enjoy the character that they present and put forward, I love him. I just absolutely love him. I adore the character that they put forth, and the fact that he has the Brigadier and the best set of companions, probably.
There's no bad one.
No.
All good. Every single one of them.
Absolutely. And some of the best antagonists, Silurians, Sea Devils, the Master.
And just like some of the most consistently written seasons as well. Like season 7 and season 10. Flawless.
And the fact that the colony in space is considered to be one of his worst, and yet that's still good.
It's still better than all of Series 11.
Yeah. It's so captivating, so endearing. He's amazing. I love his era. It just gives me warm, cozy feelings. It's such a personal choice because, as we were saying, basically these top 6 are all the favorite Doctor.
Yeah. The first 4 classic Doctors and the first 2 New Who Doctors.
Yep. Perfect. Just adore them. But ladies and gentlemen, what are your rankings of the Doctors? And even give us a little opinion piece of the non-canon ones as well. We'd love to hear it. Especially the Richard E. Grant one, because neither of us have seen. Yeah, so please. yeah, we hope you've enjoyed this advent calendar. It's been an ordeal to make.
Not even over yet for us because it's out. It's all out of order. So, but I think this is the last one we're doing as a two-piece. So,
But, thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And not only will we see you in the next one, we'll see you next year. Have a wonderful new year and a happy holidays. And we'll see you then.